Well, we're
So fucking-
live, so we're gonna go ahead and ramble all we want
Let's ramble on then.
for as long as we can.
Yeah.
Nick, I assume you don't have a song tonight because we don't have Jack.
Right, exactly. You read my mind. Exactly. Because he's the one that always demands that I have a song.
Right.
I had one in my mind, then I went, if
Mhm.
Jack's not showing up, I'm not going to do one.
He demands so much of you.
He really
you
does.
know?
He is
Like,
very needy.
I give and I give and I give, and he just goes, I don't want to do that.
what else you
It's
got?
funny.
Yeah. He's just
Yeah.
a taker. like kids that grab the whole bowl on Halloween, you fuckers.
Or like those parents. You see those parents that did that? Like
I
they-
did,
like,
yeah.
Those fucking bitches. Like,
Well, it's just exactly because it's I understand
Fucking
when
candy.
I understand when kids do it. I understand when
Mhm.
because kids
yeah,
the little devil on their
Exactly.
shoulder, expect
Right.
but that's just bad parenting.
Those just fat moms like going and hoarding all the full size candy bars is what it was.
We have this trunk or treat thing here in our. Do you guys have trunk or treat? You know what that is? It sounds like a lure to just get kids to get into your trunk, but they park all of these cars, they open up the trunk, and then it's kind of a way for the neighborhood where all the kids can just kind of come and they can go down the line.
and then,
yeah.
and
And so that it's kind of something that our city does for I don't know ever. When our kids were little, like 3 and 5 or what have you, it was amazing. It was awesome. It was like a little neighborhood kind of thing. But it has turned into exactly what you just described, where it's just a bunch of greedy parents wanting all the free candy that they want, and the line it's insane. It's like all for candy.
Stupid.
Yeah.
So
I'm
dumb.
like here's
just
10
sad.
kids. Here's $10, kid. Go buy yourself a Star Wars.
Right.
yeah, exactly. Go watch a story. I got you. Yeah.
If I had a candy like company, I would make a candy, not rock candy. I would just call it rock. Okay.
Okay.
Or I got a rock. Either way.
Okay. Would you make it white or crystal like?
No.
Would it come in like a little like wax little?
Clearly, you haven't watched Charlie Brown Christmas or Charlie Brown.
I got you.
Great
now.
Pumpkin.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've watched it. Because
he always gets a rock.
He always gets a rock. Yeah, I got you now.
Okay.
I'm thinking crack rock, but I
guess
the thing is
that's how they do it in
I never liked the Great Pumpkin that much as a kid.
Mhm.
I always watched Garfield's Halloween.
We did that.
Yeah.
We watched candy.
And then you got some songs in there. You get that creepy old man at the end.
But
I love that one.
But it's kind of weird because Garfield has a Bill Murray voice. That's cool. But then when he sings,
right,
he's got some soul.
He does, man. I may be lazy, I may be fat, or whatever. Yeah, I mean, and I do not chat. It's like, that's such a. And I actually looked up that guy because I wanted to see. That was he only wrote a few songs, and I was like, that's such a great song. Like, how could you not? He never put an album out or anything.
You never recorded this version. Clearly, we need that on ukulele.
We do. Yeah, actually, I think I did actually look it up one time, and I couldn't find the chords. It's such a song that no one probably knows.
Yeah.
That you have to have those popular songs to look them up.
Chris, do you watch Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown?
I haven't watched it in forever. I mean, I have seen it, right? Yeah. But like it's not the Charlie Brown special I would choose to watch if I had if I were to do so. Like, it's Christmas or bust for me. However, the soundtrack's pretty great.
Yeah. I mean, it has Linus and Lucy from the Christmas special, but it's got a couple other gems in there. I think the one thing that it is interesting about It's a Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, is that it's subversive in the fact that you are waiting for the Great Pumpkin to arrive, and it doesn't happen. So as a kid, you're like, what the fuck?
Bogus ass shit.
Yeah, like he just got ripped off. Is Santa even real?
I've only seen it one time, but I'm sure you guys have seen the picture of the pumpkin that looks like something else.
I assume that it looks like a dick.
It looks like a woman's.
Vagina.
I was going to go either two.
No, it's a big round pumpkin, and then basically where the stem would have come out, like it just had a weird growth, and it looks exactly like a butt and a vagina. And someone made a meme. I only saw it one time, and I should, exactly. And I should have saved it, sent it to you guys because it is hilarious. But it's like, now I understand why Linus was waiting for the Great Pumpkin. It's like, yeah.
Well, what you do is you take that pumpkin and you warm it up in the microwave.
Jesus.
I mean, we're only 5 minutes and 29 seconds.
Already went to the gutter.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're just trying to fit everything in, as they say.
I think we've actually had discussions though about Charlie Brown. Like, of course, everyone always loves the Christmas one, but the one I grew up watching the most was Bon Voyage Charlie Brown, and I think it because it came out right when I was watching cartoons as a very very young kid.
Yeah,
because I want to say it came out in '83 or '84.
Not one of those '60s versions,
or maybe it did come out. Maybe it came out maybe it did come out in the '60s. But it's not one of the '60s classics though. It's a newer one. But I always liked it because it's basically not the whole class, but the main characters get to go to France, like on a student exchange program, and it's got an interesting.
Seen that.
Yeah, it's got that. Yeah, Bon Voyage Charlie Brown.
I've probably only seen that maybe once or twice. So, I watched the Thanksgiving one quite a bit too, because we got the when we bought it, we got the collection, the Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and then I just so happened I run across a version of the Valentine one. I picked that one up, but the Thanksgiving one's good because it's funny because it's almost like there's an A side and a B side on the DVD. It's like you got Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown, and then right after that they have the magic. There's like a magic one, that they do, a magic show. Which is funny because there's this kid heckling Snoopy in the front row the whole time, which just kind of reminded me of us.
Going to Bon Voyage.
You suck, but
you say right. And that's what amazed me when I watched Bon Voyage Charlie Brown now, Chris. Like when you get around to watching it, is like there is some adult stuff in that one that I'm actually surprised they got away with. Because like
really
Snoopy goes on the trip with them as well as Woodstock, and he flies first class, so the rest of them are back in economy, and like he's getting like all the steak and all the fancy stuff up in first class, and then he goes to Wimbledon and plays, and that Wimbledon scene's hilarious. And then, but one of the things is he drives the car the entire trip because he's the only adult of the bunch, even though he's a dog. And but the thing is they get into an automobile accident coming out of the airport, and he's over going like,
wow,
going,
really?
Fuck you to like all the people. And I'm like, as a kid, I would do that to people because I saw Snoopy do it. But I'm like, I have no idea what this means.
Yeah, like Snoopy on you, man.
Yeah.
Will Fry here.
Yeah, this is actually interesting.
He says, so I listened to 2 different podcasts on the history of trick-or-treating, and both said it's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown helped make trick-or-treating a national thing.
Oh.
Before that, it wasn't done everywhere, but was gaining popularity. So
that's interesting.
I can see that. Yeah.
And Will Fry, thanks for finding us because there was a bit of a podcasting snafu confusion. So
glad the link up. There's probably like 4 or 5 people going, "What the heck?"
Yeah, it's just a big scam to lose John, the retired guy. So
I think the cinematic piece that makes me think of Halloween the most is probably an old pick of mine from my verses, and that's E.T.
Oh yeah, of course.
Like the Halloween scenes from E.T. just remind me so much of like Halloween as a kid. With the shitty plastic masks and like the vinyl like pullover suits. Just totally. But yeah, that was awesome. Like back when we were a kid, it was so cool. So like last night, being able to go out with my out and trick or treat with the kids. It's funny because my daughter's of the age now where she's like, I'm out of here, So she and her friends went off and did their thing, and then my son, who kind of started tagging along with some of the middle of the road aged kids, and so he's 4, right? And he's 4, and he's this little dude. He's the smallest guy in the entire group, and he is just running around in his ninja costume, like having so much fun. But it just reminds you, like as a kid, like how like massive of a holiday this is for kids, especially like a 4-year-old kid who's, like what like life experiences at people's houses does he have? Like he's got like, he knows like 3 houses,
right?
He knows my house, he knows my grandma or his grandmother's my mom's house, and then he knows my wife's parents' house, and then maybe one or two of our friends. You know what I mean? And it's like one of those things where it's like he's running around to all of these. What?
Why is Crackpot Sports on here?
He's in there. So you think he's running around to all these houses, and it's just like this whole new world for him, right? He's like knocking on the door, he's like saying hello, and he was the cutest and most polite little trick-or-treater there ever could be. Saying, trick or treat, happy Halloween, thank you very much to everybody, except for one house. He comes storming and he goes, their candy was terrible. Like in complete earshot of like the people who live there. I go, Jackson, that's not how you should talk about people. They're giving you free stuff. If you don't like it, he goes, yeah, you're right. I should just say no thank you next time. I was like,
that's good.
You're a cute kid. You're lucky you're cute. But yeah, so there you go. So that was Halloween in a nutshell for me last night. And my daughter ended up showing up at the place we're hanging out with by the end of the night anyways. And so she's kind of off doing her thing with her friends, and I'm feeling old because she's starting to like not want to hang out with mom and dad and all that stuff.
She's finding that independence though.
She's got a boyfriend now, which is like
right. I mean, is she driving herself to school as well, just like my daughter?
No. Oh, Jesus Christ, really?
Yeah, my daughter drives.
Oh my God!
Every day.
She walks to school every day with her trombone.
Oh wow! But your daughter's Chris is only like 13, right? Or
my daughter's 11.
11. Okay, I knew she was getting preteen somewhere in there.
Yeah. Well, pretty much. I mean, she's there. Definitely mentally.
It was cold. It was a cold trick or treating, and Crackpot Sports is right. Halloween should always be on a Friday or Saturday. I mean, like. Seriously, like it's exhausting.
Agreed.
So, I mean, it's fun. It's a fun time for sure. But man, if it's on a Friday or Saturday, it's off the hook, and then you can get to sleep in the next day because all of these kids, like, either they're tired or they're wired on all their extra candy.
True.
It's kind of hard for teachers the next day. So.
I figured. I mean. Most of the time, at least where I grew up, like trick or treating was only like 6:30 to like 9 at the latest because
very latest.
Yeah, because they're kids; they're not going to be up that late.
I think it was 6 to 8 here was the or 6 to 8:30. It's something like that. So, there's always a part in our town which it gets really busy. It's like where the houses kind of put on some really cool decorations, and and you can kind of see them during the day or the night if you drive by.
Yeah.
But it just gets so thick and packed, like they almost have to shut the street down. So we're just going on the side streets because I'm like, kids, look, it's not crowded. You just walk up to these houses, and they're just happy to give out candy. They're like, So,
I mean, in the 3 Halloweens or 2 Halloweens that I've been here, it's all old people, so like I don't have any trick or treaters, which is fine. But it is kind of sad though. I'm like, you would think that like the parents, bringing their grandkids to visit would be like, oh, Nick, are you going to put anything out, or at least have like 2 or 3 houses for some kids to walk around. But no, never get any. But I don't know. So I don't know, like me, like I never felt I ever got to go trick or treating as a kid because where I grew up.
You grew up in the sticks.
I grew up in the sticks, yeah. And so basically my trick-or-treating was I had to dress up in whatever mom got me for that year.
Yep.
And then I would drive to my first grandparents' house.
Yep.
And then they would see my costume and give me a little bit of candy. Mm-hmm. And then I would have to sit there for like half hour, an hour. And then I have to go then drive 30 minutes to the other grandparents' house. Yep. And then sit there. And then by the time that was all done with, the night was done, and then I'd come back.
Nick,
that sucks.
Nick, that's how my childhood was up until my parents' divorce. This is what you missed out on. Your parents get a divorce, and one of them moves into the city, and then you're living. So that's kind of what happened to me, though. But I grew up on a farm, and so it was like drive down the road, first grandparents, drive down, see the aunt and uncle, and then drive up to see the other grandparents, and that was about it, But, when my mom moved into the city, the big city of Defiance, Ohio, there were at least like streets and neighborhoods. And then I got to experience real trick-or-treating where like I remember coming home that first time I just got to and I was like, I'm going until I can't feel my legs, you know.
Right.
I remember coming home and just like covering the whole table with candy, and it's a lot of fun. So Sherry in the chat says I keep my door open a half hour after everyone else shuts down just to try to help out those dads that had to work late. Nice. So trying to race around, giving their kids trick-or-treating experience.
Yeah, do you see that fucking douchebag on Fox News? The clip of this has been kind of passed around on social media. I forgot his name.
Maybe not. I don't know.
You'll get an STD from passing that around.
Yeah, he was talking. He's like, what's the deal with all these dads leaving work early to go home and be with their kids on Halloween?
Oh yeah.
But he was like talking about it like it was a terrible thing. He's like, if I was in my 20s and just getting in the business, my boss would never let me leave. Well, what's this all about? Since when do dads go home early to go trick or treating? I'm like, wow, dude.
Yeah.
Dads
when they have a
work
kid
isn't everything.
Yeah. And when they have a kid that's 3 or 4,
fucking real, man.
Well, I mean, like I know I've kind of vocalized this a few times with I'm sure my dad regrets it. But you know, he's not college educated and he worked on our farm, but he was gone from 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day.
Yep.
And sometimes 6 days a week. Yeah. And I think he definitely regrets that. Like as I got older,
oh my God, yeah.
You know, because he missed out on a lot of stuff. And I've never said that to him to his face. I'm like, you know, because if someone says like, oh, tell me about your dad growing up, I'd be like, I don't know what to tell you, because there's some memories I have definitely, but I remember mom way more than I do my dad.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And it's just,
yeah. I mean, that's a generational thing, right? Too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like I think, my brother and I were the first college educated in our family, you know, and my dad he's a sales guy, and he worked, you know, 60 hours a week minimum, right? So he would be gone until 8, 9 o'clock almost every night. But I gotta give him credit, you know, God rest his soul, of course. Like he did his absolute best to be a part of the things that my brother and I wanted to do, right? So like when my brother played Babe Ruth baseball, I don't know if you guys have Babe Ruth baseball, or it's a thing that's regional. I'm not quite sure, but
no, we have Roger Clemens baseball.
So he was never able to, like, you know, commit to being a coach for him because of that level of competition. But he was in charge of the concession stand. You know what I mean? Like he would go off and do that type of stuff. And then when I was coming up in baseball, he was my coach, right? So my dad was my coach, and that was some of those best memories I have is when he was a part of that, right? But to the same point as you have, Nick, like my dad worked a shit ton.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just how he was raised, because he was his father passed away when he was like 15 years old. Oh, wow. So he quickly went into being the breadwinner.
You know what I mean? Like that was my grandfather. My grandfather did that.
You know, so like that's kind of like what my dad grew up in. And that's how he was. But yeah, but it sucks. Right, because he didn't know any better. That's just what he knew to do.
Right, and I do think that there is a generational thing with like our generation, whether you've been to college or not, there is a general consensus of like, this job's not my life, and my wife, like my family is more important to that. So I'm not going to miss out on that. You know.
Yeah, and, you know, I saw a really interesting video today, and it was kind of along the lines of that, and it was, you know, fuck your job, because. If you died tomorrow, you'd be replaced the day after. Right.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you can't look at your job as your life unless you're running your own business, right? That's different, horse of a different color, right? But this, I think our generation gets that more than any other previous stuff.
Yeah. And even with that, like Chris, like when I was running the business, I mean, it was just like, I mean, I'd make those barriers as best as I could, you know, to keep those things separate. But it is a nonstop thing. Like it's hard to turn off the phone. It's hard to turn off those things.
You can't. You just can't do it unless you're big enough to let someone else do it for you. You know what I mean?
Exactly. But if you're starting out or even just trying to like make something, like it's all you. So
go ahead, Nick.
Okay. Sort of related. It's something I did not realize I did. I knew I did it, but when my dad mentioned it, but it was nothing until I got in my 20s and my dad brought it up. But just speaking of baseball, made me think of it, Chris. And my dad showed up to as many games as he could when I played, minor league, little league, everything. And I never thought about it till he mentioned it. But he's like, why? Because it made him insecure. And that's why he always remembered it. He was like, why every time when you came to bat, would you look for me in the stands? And then after every pitch, you would look at me, and I did. And at the time I didn't really have an answer, and then as I got older, I went, oh, I know now why I did that. And it's because like every child's biggest fear is letting their parents down.
Sure.
And I think because I so rarely saw him when he showed up at the stands, every strike I took,
it was meaningful.
It was meaningful that he was there, but it was also like I was scared. I think too is like if I fuck this up, like he's not going to be there.
You guys are triggering some serious
some memories. Yeah,
my time in Little League was during my parents' divorce, and so it was actually having the parents show up was one of the hardest things because both of them would be there. And then sometimes my grandparents on my dad's side would be there sometimes.
And the drama that ensues.
For fuck's sake. Like the national, like our final championship game. Oh man, it was tense, and you want to do your best because they're all there and you have this whole heartache going on. I get up to bat, right? And I haven't batted in a game, like at practice, I was fine. In a game, I get up to bat, finally hit the ball, but I don't know if I told you this, before the story, but I hit the ball off of my middle finger on my right hand, and so it was basically like a bunt in that way
with a broken finger.
And so I just immediately kneel over. I think the first base coach didn't. I think he thought I didn't know what to do. They're just like, run, Matt, run, and I'm just like, I can't.
Yeah.
So it was, I think the coach let me in one extra inning in that game, I think, to just kind of be like, attaboy, like I think he kind of knew, But
it's so interesting, man. Like Nick, having kids of my own and kind of coming from what we all three of us really kind of grew up with, really, it's interesting the perspective that I now have of like what do I fucking care about?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's so crazy because even like a 4-year-old, my son, he's so insightful. Like it's fucking wild, right? Like I've brought my son to my dad's gravesite before, and I probably had mentioned in passing, but not getting into details with him about it.
Yeah,
and it sounds so completely morbid, but it's adorable coming from a 4-year-old kid. Where he'll reference my dad.
Oh,
right,
yeah.
Like he'll talk like about my dad, and he'll be like, "Oh yeah, Grandpa." he lives underground.
Oh shit.
So it's like on the surface, like what the fuck? But like it's super adorable because that's what he knows, So he went to the cemetery and
he's putting into context with what he knows about life.
Totally is right, and he's putting things into context, and he's like he's getting it, like he's now understanding a little bit more about like grandma, who grandma is, and who grandma is to me. And how that relationship is between me and my mom, and then like he knows Nana, which is my wife's mom, and Peeps is my wife's dad to him. And it's interesting to see, like, because we see her parents way more than we see my mom because we live in different parts of the state. But he's slowly understanding what that relationship is. But it's just really cute. But it also makes me really kind of like take a step back and more so in the last few years, especially since my dad passed. Yeah. Like, I fucking don't care about a lot of things now. Like, because it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, there are so many things in life that are just so fucking stupid. Like, and they have no bearing whatsoever on like the fulfillment of your life, and figuring out what's important in in going back to that comment about that Fox News host, I couldn't fucking believe that what I was hearing. And like even his hosts and the co-hosts were like, "What the fuck are you talking about? You're talking like this is a bad thing."
I think most of those. I think most of those co-hosts are just trying to out what the fuck each other.
It's just some bullshit to say. Yeah.
Well, because then it gets passed around. It's like, oh, I got.
Yeah, they want shock value. They want clicks. That type of thing. And
it doesn't matter if it's fact or fiction. Just it gets news.
And I got to thinking about that earlier today, and I was like, man, I'm so grateful to have to that I can watch this video and be like, what? And I'm so grateful I'm not someone who there's probably millions of dads out there being like, right, yeah, man, like like what the
fuck? Fuck it, man. I don't need to care about my kid.
I feel bad for their kids.
Yeah,
I mean, I do.
Because
going back to we kind of wrap up the Halloween thing. Like my son had so much fucking fun last night. Like he had so much fun, and I was just grateful that I could be there.
Core memories, right?
Right. For sure. Yeah.
I just piggyback on that one comment that you said about like your son kind of understanding, what's happened to your dad. My daughter, and like explaining my mom to her, like growing up, she was probably like 3 or 4, and she says to me like, "Oh, I saw Grandma D and your dog Shadow." Oh, I never told my daughter that I had a dog named Shadow. Yeah. Like I had never told her that, and she knew the name, and I was just like, "What?" And then it's just like, and what 4-year-olds and 3-year-old mind is like, right? It's like on a dime, they're just like, "I want more toast." Just like, right. I'm reaching the ethereal plane through you. Help me out.
Right.
And and they're just like, "Can I have more juice?" And you're just like, "Okay." Yeah. And now we're never gonna get that back. And
there's tons. I mean, I'm fascinated with that kind of stuff. There's tons of cases like that. There's some age from like birth to like 4 or 5 where there's so many. Like there's one, I think she's from India or in Europe, where basically as soon as she could talk, she was like, it had an adult conversation for like 5 minutes with their parents of like, "Oh, my name is Ethel and I live in like Leeds, England, and I'm married."
Past life. Yeah. There's a past
life.
Yes.
Like being like channeled through her. Yeah. And like, and then once it was gone, it was gone. But it was like, I'm from this place and I'm married to this person, and and her husband was still alive. And it was like, holy shit. Like, and then it was
there's something related. I want to say it's related to Ravi Shankar in some way and his childhood. And I could be completely wrong on the Ravi Shankar, but I remember listening to some podcasts about past life or like, reincarnation, where they were able to identify the killer of someone that had died. Yeah.
That's crazy.
And it went to court, and it was in India, so it was like accepted as like being like, "Oh yeah, like we accept this as being like you are the reincarnated," because he was able to identify certain facts that as a child, like how would he have known, and they were cities apart, and so my daughter, I remember being in traffic one time, like just imagine the worst commuter traffic, 4 o'clock rush hour fucking bullshit, and I'm just turning on to get onto the highway, and she says to me, "Daddy, what happens when we die?"
Right.
Like your mind is like, I just need to navigate this so that we don't die.
Yeah.
And yet you're asking me about like some huge concept that, you know, so, and then.
Oh, dude, I remember vividly, the time in my childhood when death became like part of the conversation of things that I understood. And I remember being absolutely mortified, terrified about death, right? And it was all about like, and I equated it to losing my parents, right? Because I saw my dad lose his mom, right? I saw I saw what that did, and I'll never forget like that. Like it kind of like took a toll on me, right? More than like my grandmother passing, It was more of like seeing my dad lose his parent.
Yeah.
Right. So that freaked me out because it put those thoughts of losing my parents in my brain. As a 4, 5, 6-year-old kid, which come to fruition, it totally sucks. Like when it does happen, you know what I mean? Like, so I was right, damn it, but it's just off by the time frame. It's just crazy. So it's odd to think that that's like kind of where my son is at right now, right? Like he's just kind of like developing in that way, and my daughter is like. Yeah, my daughter understands and accepts it, like that type of thing, which is like it's just wild to me. It's weird.
Yeah, I think I've told you I had anxiety basically my whole life, and I think that was where it kind of started with me. Is a very young age, like seeing the Challenger explode, watching Optimus Prime die,
right?
Watching a Trey, I was like watching a Atreus.
Yeah, like Atreus, like everything that happened.
Artax gets sucked into the swamp of whatever they're called.
But I think just all the death, that happened when we were kids. Like I think when I finally could rationalize that, like, oh, that's it. Like that's the end of the thing. And I remember, especially when the first Iraq War was amping up, not understanding really what war is at that age. But I remember freaking out, like, oh my God, like they're going to bomb the US and all this. And my dad was just like, had to like grab me and was like,
if you remember though,
we're going to be fine.
If you remember, like there is some pretty big, like heavy, like type of stuff happening right around that time too. So we kind of like as kids were coming out of the Cold War-ish stuff, right? Which we were. I mean, I think I remember we were even still in kindergarten, first grade, probably taught like air raid stuff, right? Yeah. If we go back in time, and then you think about like the early '90s. So what was going on in the early '90s? Of course, you had like the Iraq stuff with Saddam Hussein, the whole nine, and then there was
biological
always the
chemicals that
chemical warfare, and then
Mm-hmm.
there was the movie, then there was the fucking movie Terminator 2, was probably one of the first ever times in the big screen you got to see. From
like
a visual,
nuclear,
of a nuclear explosion going off,
with the robots,
and seeing Sarah Connor holding on to that fucking chain link fence and being blown apart, like that fucked me as a kid. That completely fucked me as a kid, and I would have nightmares about that. I think that's what was going to happen. Right?
I even remember Waco very well as well.
Oh my God, yeah.
Waco.
And then you think of all the succession of shit events that happened after that. And I mean by shit events, just like terrible things that happened that we had press coverage for. Do you think about Waco was probably the big one of the big ones, the first
Oklahoma City bombing.
Oklahoma bombing, dude. I will never forget being glued to the television during the Oklahoma City bombing.
Yeah.
Like that was a big one for us, right? And then after that, when we were in college, it was probably Columbine, right? So like you think about all these crazy shit. Yeah, man.
We went to a dark place there pretty quickly. There,
we kind of ebb and flowed from the happy to like,
and then we went to. I mean, think about it. When that goes right to fucking 9/11, right? So it's like we've seen some shit.
We've seen some shit, and that's what cracks me up when I've seen the memes lately on Facebook. Which I know you guys are on Facebook, where it's like feel sorry for the Gen Zs or whatever. They've experienced all of this before they were 30, and I'm like, fuck you. Fuck you! Yeah. I was like, my entire adulthood.
Well, I mean, yeah,
like it's just been
each generation is traumatized or formed by the political events of their.
I know,
life,
but they're taking credit though for shit that happened when we like
sure.
Like, they experienced 9/11. It's like no, they didn't. They were like 2. Shut up,
right?
Well, it's interesting. Like with my kids, like 9/11 is like Vietnam to us. It's just like it's in the past. It's like the trauma of Vietnam though casts its shadow on the era that we grew up in, right? Just as 9/11 casts its shadow on everything we've made
since. Yeah,
absolutely. I would say maybe not necessarily Vietnam, but I think before 9/11,
like MASH.
Before 9/11, I would always hear my parents, my uncles and aunts and people of my parents' generation say, "I'll always remember where I was when I found out that JFK was assassinated."
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. So that 9/11 became our
JFK. I mean, that's a singular moment. But I just think about how Vietnam, Watergate, and like kind of like what happened there at the end of the 70s, like really, really impacted culturally everything from Rambo to MASH to like these other things that kind of were kind of in the background. That as kids we were just kind of like, huh, that's interesting. But we have that with our TV shows, like my kids watching Battlestar Galactica. Let's say if I put my son in front of watching that, I don't think he would understand like some of the cultural references that this refers to of the post 9/11 world that we were kind of like,
right.
It's interesting, like kind of what you're saying, like for every action there's a reaction, and to me, Kennedy as well as Vietnam, they're linked, and you look at how everything before 63 was a very pro-American, pro-patriotic, innocence in a way of like, the good guys always won. And then you look after that and it becomes more pessimistic. And then when you get roughly right there to where like Chris was talking about, like when you get to the first Iraq War and you get to, that's where you kind of have a little bit of a let up and like, it's no longer that negativity. And then I think even Rodney King, like that kind of changed.
Oh my God. Yeah.
The way, and like, there was like I think it's one of the reasons why the 90s tend to be a bit more positive than things, because like Vietnam had been a good enough time. And then we kind of like were looking at trying to be positive about everything. And then 9/11,
but I'd say the positivity like also comes from the internet, like the birth of the internet and seeing that erupt with like personal computers and the birth of the information age, like seeing that happen, it really did feel like there's potential. There is like, we are moving in the right direction to 2000. We're doing stuff, guys. Like we're going places, know, and then it's just like there was shit still going on, but there was a little slight, I think, renaissance of hope, I would say.
Right. But then like, I'm just trying to like find little things here, but like you look at like, the military, for example, like no one wanted to be in the military after Vietnam for a longest time. And then after 9/11, we became kind of a patriotic society again for a short amount of time, where it's like, like we're all Americans, we're all one people. And then now you look at things going on, like even with the current shit show we're in and the globally with Ukraine and Israel and everything else, it's like, I would never want my kid to be in the military right now, especially like when you look at our generation of how they treated all of us in Iraq and Afghanistan. It's like, what for? Like, what did they go for? Not to get too political, but it was just, it's just sad in a way. It like has, saying like how trends kind of change on a dime. Or they seem like,
we were fighting communism.
Right.
I mean, like look where that is, it's like all those men that had died in the name of like fighting communism.
Well, yeah, I mean, when with tragedy comes unity, right? So that's typically kind of like that formula. And I mean, I remember when the Iraq War, Operation Desert Storm, right, with Norman Schwarzkopf. Like shit, dude, they essentially advertised. They advertised and they kind of came up with this campaign. I don't know if you guys, I look back at it now as like someone who knows what the fuck I'm thinking about right now versus me as a kid not knowing what the hell is going on. Like they freaking like they marketed our missiles.
Oh right,
yeah, right. Like it was like Patriot missiles versus Scuds. Like
I had like for some reason I don't know how or when, but I have like Gulf War trading cards.
Yeah.
I have T-shirts.
Yeah,
okay. Like I had the Patriot missile T-shirt as a kid.
They had coloring books, man. It was like
the Department of Defense had like I'm curious that I'm thinking about more and more about it. They must have had a significant budget to try and like glamorize or glam up what was going on. Right, because it was Patriot missiles were going to overtake every Scud missile there is, like, and that was like our claim to fame. Like, it was just wild to me.
Yeah, and you look at the films at the time, starting with Top Gun, which was like a major PR.
Oh yeah. Because that came out the same year as Platoon, and Platoon was almost got shut down, right? Because the Department of Defense put so much money into Top Gun.
Right.
They advertised the fuck out of it, and they actually funded a significant portion of that movie. And then they tried to get Platoon off of the big screen.
Right. And then you look at like things like Under Siege, with whatever his name is,
Steven Seagal.
Steven Seagal, yeah, same thing. Like it was all about the USS Missouri, and then like all the missiles and it was all that stuff. It was just the movie's crap. I mean, but it was such a hit. Like when you watch it now, you're like, how is this movie a hit? It's so
shit
bad.
movie.
It's so
bad. And Matt Tree says 2 letters in a name, G.I. Joe, right? Like that was war propaganda at its finest, right? But yeah,
these TV shows need to be educational. So at the end, you need to have something educational. It can't just be selling a toy.
You know what we should also educate people on? A commercial break. Okay. All right.
This is a heavy fucking episode.
What the hell? We can change it up if we want.
I don't know. Like Jeremy in the chat is like laying down some stuff here.
Jeremy mentioned some attacks happening in Canada.
Yeah,
really?
It is very geographically focused or just timely. He's also says, I'm Skyping with a friend whose family is threatened right now, and it makes me overthink everything.
Well, I'm sure.
So,
my God, I'm sorry. What's going on in Canada?
That's horrible. Apparently, it's not
familiar with what's happening over there.
Yeah, apparently it's not in our TikTok feed, and by our TikTok feed, I mean Chris and our cycles are linked.
It's so funny. They really are. Like, so I've got that with a couple of friends at work too, where I'm like, and I'm about to show them something like, "Yep, I saw that like 20 minutes ago."
I know it.
That was on my feed.
We were talking about like some of the Halloween masks earlier and the Halloween outfits, and I was like, did he fucking see some of those stuff that I've seen? Yeah. There's one 80s one that like starts off with a kid who says like, I'm gonna be a hobo or I'm gonna be a bum for Halloween. Yeah. And I was like,
I was a bum for Halloween one year for sure.
Too.
I had a mask of this guy that had a cigar hanging out of his mouth. I was like, right. A shit hat and like a tattered suit.
Yeah, but we all wanted the plastic mask. For some reason, I just coveted wanting that like weird plastic mask. Then finally getting it, and it smelled like horrible.
Gasoline, yeah.
It's just sweat pouring down your face as you have this stupid plastic mask. But that's all I wanted. Is that?
Now, my mom would always get me the cheap the PJ costumes. So I'd be Batman one year, Superman the next year, or whatever. And then those would be my PJs for the rest of the year. So it's like, it was a win-win.
My mom would sew me.
I'll never forget the year I was a kid. I wanted to be Freddy Krueger. I think every kid was Freddy Krueger at least once in their childhood, right?
That seems to check out. Especially winning the glove, right?
Everyone wants the glove.
Yeah.
That's it.
I remember wanting to have a kick-ass costume, right? Because like from a makeup perspective, he was fucking terrifying, right?
Yeah.
So like they came out with these really nice like rubber masks that were like they looked like Robert. What's his name? Eklund or
Freddie? Oh, you're talking about the actor,
the character, Freddy Krueger, whoever I forgot his name. But if I recall, they were expensive, right? So they're probably the most expensive mask you could get that year. And of course, the glove. If you want to get like a true to the screen glove, you're gonna pay a ton of money for that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to one of
those Halloween stores and getting. Yeah.
So I got the cut rate version, which was with the glove. It was literally like a brown nylon. Robert Englund, thank you. A brown like nylon like glove with like these long like shiny like plastic knives that you had to like have be on top of your finger so they would stand up straight. They just looked like shit. And it ended up getting like, and my mom was trying to help me out that year. She wasn't going to buy me that mask. She brought me like a clear like a clear mask, right?
Okay.
And it was like molded for like a face. It was clear. But then she would like she put like makeup on the inside of it to make it look like it was just like the worst costume, man. Like, and I'll never forget. That's a core memory that I'm never gonna shake. Right? It was like the shittiest costume ever. All because my parents didn't want to shell out the probably like $30-$40 for the real deal. But and looking back, I don't blame them.
Right? Exactly. Well, he'll wear it one time. Exactly. It's always the logic.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm trying to think anything I'm watching. The only thing I think I've been watching is the show you recommended, Chris, Invasion.
Invasion. Okay, cool. How far along are you with Invasion?
I think I just finished the episode where they were in the house and she killed the alien in the car. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you're still in season 1.
I'm still in season 1, yeah.
Okay.
Towards the end of season 1. But it's one of those shows that, like, it's not Manifest, but like it's the same intrigue that keeps me wanting to watch it. But I'm not invested in any of the storylines.
I am 1,000% with you on that. Like, I was actually watching it today, and I was watching an episode, and I sat there. I'm like, you know what? I'd rather go look at TikTok right now.
Yeah.
So I stopped watching like in the middle of the episode. Like, fuck it. I'm going back to TikTok. It was there. Far more entertaining, by the way.
I mean, I think the only one I halfway like is the Japanese JASA storyline, just because I want to see her investigate it more. But that's about it. Like, I don't care. Oh man, that sucks. Okay,
no,
but
I
don't care about
in a different way. You will.
Okay, but I don't care really about the Marine or the Army guy. I don't really care about the family. It's kind of like, But.
Well, the second season, without giving anything away, focuses heavily on Mitsuki and what she does. That is to move the story forward. The family, and the British kids.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the British. I really don't care about the British kids.
Yeah, you will. It gets interesting. But so far, it's one of those shows where, like, yeah, it's good. It's definitely a good show. But I'm not in love with it, and I'm definitely like, meh. I'll watch it if I can.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm gonna stick with it just because I'm intrigued by it. But it's not Apple's best.
Right. Agreed.
Chris, when you were talking about a clear mask that your mom put makeup on, I just kept thinking about this.
It was that's what it was, but it was different though. There was that style.
Okay.
Of like that molded mask.
Right. But
it was definitely, but it was like an old man version, so it was wrinkly, right? So I think her intent was to like have the wrinkles that she could try and make it look like Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, I was thinking of. Like, Matt, look it up if you can.
Sure.
John Cale's first record, Vintage Violence, I think is what's called, 1970, and he's wearing a clear mask on the cover of that record.
Let me pull that.
I
see it.
For anyone who doesn't know who John Cale is, he was one of the founding members of the Velvet Underground, and him and of course Lou Reed always had conflicts, which is why he left the Velvet Underground. But this first record he put out is actually pretty good. The single off of it's called Big White Cloud, which is a very interesting song. If you've never listened to it, give it a shot.
It sounds like a euphemism for cocaine.
Could be.
Big White Cloud. Here's the album cover of that.
Yeah. So that's what when Chris immediately said clear plastic mask, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Whoops, sorry, I didn't mean to close out of it so quickly there.
That's all right.
So I was closing out my windows there, and it just was like, boop. So
I'll show you. It was similar to this. I'll share my screen real quick. I gotta find it.
I got a needle and an apple.
Safari.
Yeah.
Safari.
Yeah.
I'm just cribbing off of what Jeremy says here in the chat.
Oh, did he say? Okay.
I've got a needle and an
apple. Yeah.
I wanted to watch the Beatles documentary.
I meant I listened to Jeremy's asking about the new Now and Then. Beatles. I think new song comes out on November 4th. There is on YouTube like a good 10-minute little mini documentary that Paul is mostly talking in.
There's one on Disney Plus.
Is there? Okay, I didn't see that one. Okay.
And then it was somewhere else I saw it too, so it's out there.
I mean, from what little bit I've heard of the track, I wish they would go back and do the same thing for Free as a Bird, and especially for Real Love, because I've always thought the audio for Real Love sucked ass.
Mm-hmm. I liked the demo version that Lennon did of Real Love better than what the Beatles did.
Yeah.
Free as a Bird, I don't have any problems with. I think it's fun for what it is, but any post Beatles stuff, it just feels like it's in a bottle. Like it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel open enough that.
I agree. I've never felt those were Beatles. I've never thought of them as Beatles songs ever.
Yeah.
Like I enjoy them, I like them, but I've never thought, oh, this is the Beatles.
Right. I'm looking forward to it. I was going to watch one of the documentaries with my kids tonight. So
sharing screen's not working, but so to give you an idea, that was the title of Mass.
Wow, that's
very
scary.
That's actually kind of similar to what it was.
That might be even more terrifying.
That's scarier to me than Freddy.
Yeah. Anyway,
yeah, I'm looking forward to the track. I guess especially because it's the last George slide I'll ever hear.
Right.
So I'm looking forward.
Did you ever hear that song that they John, Paul, George, Ringo that they had done? It was also kind of in that same vein as a post Beatles kind of song. It's I think it's called 4, and it looks like this. So I don't know if my camera can pick
it's very
that
Queen.
I see the it does look like a Queen cover.
Yeah, I can't quite my battery's dying here, but anyway, I think it's Walk With You is pretty good. So anyway, worth a listen to. It's like a 4-song EP that they had released.
Who released this?
John, Paul, George, and Ringo. It just exists as a Beatles thing. It came out in 2014. So
and it's called 4.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it's 4 John, Paul, George, Ringo. It's an EP. It's by the Beatles. It has Love, Call Me Back Again, Let It Down.
Oh, okay.
And Walk With You. And Walk With You is a nice kind of. But I can't remember the details of this. Matt Treese probably knows more about this, and he's in the chat. So, but there you go. Worth a listen to as well. But yes, everything kind of post Beatles that's been done, it always feels very ancillary.
That's a big word.
Insulin, is that something you know?
Insulin, yeah. I actually did get a new. I mean, Matt, you probably wouldn't care. Chris might because he used to sell the stuff. But I actually got a new update on sensors and meters and all that, and now it's all connected. So like my sensor, it tells me my glucose, connects to my pod now, and so like I don't have to do shit anymore. It's just like
it's awesome.
It all just syncs up and like keeps me at a. I was like, this is awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, man, closer and closer to the continuous loop.
Yeah. But no, I'm looking forward to listening to the song. Just sad. Was it you guys I was talking to not too long about? It's finally starting to seep into my brain that we're middle aged.
Fuck every day, man, and like every fucking day.
And because like when my parents or when people that I knew growing up that were my friends' parents or people that were colleagues, when I get news from my parents that they passed away, I'm like, how can that be? He's not. Oh, fuck, he is. Like I'm thinking they're not old, but I'm like,
you're like,
yeah, they are.
Oh, like Matthew Perry's only 7 years older than me.
Oh,
fuck. Shit like that.
Yeah,
shit like that kind of hits
that's
you.
That's a freak.
Nick's going to
hell. That's a freak thing. That's a freak thing, but still, it's kind of like. Yeah. I mean, I think about my mom's age all the time. She was 49. I'm 47, so it's a constant like.
I mean, we've mentioned this before, but I also think like when we were kids, a 43 to 49-year-old person was ancient.
Oh yeah,
it kind of seemed like that.
Both like to like us, like our perception of them. But fuck, man, looking at a picture of a 43-year-old dude from 1985, compared to someone today.
Have you seen Cheers? Coach was like in his 40s.
Yeah, all of them look. Well, he was like 50. Yeah, but like it's like when
Archie fucking Bunker.
Yeah.
Archie Bunker was my age.
Right.
Look at even watch Father of the Bride, first one with Steve Martin and Diane Keaton. They're 45 years old in that movie.
Fuck.
Right.
And it's like, why do you guys look like you're 60 already? I mean, they dress them up to be the parents, but still, it's like you're not that old.
Is it? I don't know what it is, though, man. Like, I mean, is it just like skincare? Is it like just general awareness of?
I think it's because we're packed full of preservatives.
I mean, it could be, man. Like
all of those.
People look like shit back then.
It's the red dye number 4,
man. It's the red dye, man. Yeah,
it's the red dye number 4. You've heard about this, right? The red dye number 4 and like not being allowed in California, and so like certain like food, like
there's a whole and then I said they're trying to get rid of Flamin' Hot Cheetos right now for the same reason. Because the red dye in California.
Yeah,
because the red dye and the Flamin' Hot Red Cheetos also they're saying is bad for you.
Get the fuck out of here, Matt Treese.
Dude, it probably is. Like there's nothing healthy about it. Oh god.
I'm sorry, Matt Treese. You're just mentioning Joe Don Baker and one of my favorite MST3K movies, Mitchell. So, shout out to Joe Don Baker. Yeah, that is weird, Treese. To be, because I think about that movie too, and so yeah, wow. Anyway, we're getting old. I like to say that I'm entering into the later part of my middle 40s.
I'm in my prime.
Well, dude, like I had a conversation. I had a conversation just the other day with a couple of employees. We're talking about physical media. Is a foreign concept to 90% of my workforce.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like no idea, no concept whatsoever. Like they think of a CD as like ancient hieroglyphics.
Oh,
I could see that though. I mean,
it's crazy.
Yeah, because I mean,
so
they basically.
What was the first CD you purchased?
Ooh,
do you remember?
Oh yeah, personally with my own money was "Injustice for All" by Metallica.
Hell yes, nice.
Back in the old long box, you know.
Right. Wait, you bought it in '88?
In '88, yeah, when it came out.
Whoa, okay. So you had a CD player early on.
So yeah, my dad
would buy CDs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that both of our dads had CD players in the late '80s because he got a Kenwood system, the whole.
Yeah, actually, so we didn't get a shit. When did Forrest Gump come out?
95.
Okay, 94. So that we got a CD player when Forrest Gump came out because the first CDs that we purchased was the 2 CD soundtrack.
Yeah. Oh, like that's 4 a good
CD
one.
Soundtrack, whatever it was. That's a good one. That was the first CD or the house purchased, for our family. The first CD I personally purchased was Pearl Jam 10.
Yes,
I'll never forget. Like when you opened up that case and you took out the lyric sheet, it was a huge poster of them all going up and putting their hands up together.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Loved it.
That's an early one for me. I had Pearl Jam 10, but before that, I went out and bought John Lennon Shaved Fish.
Oh.
Nick, you?
No, we already said what my CD was.
Which was it?
Metallica's Just.
Metallica. Dude, that's right.
REM, Automatic for the People.
That was 94 as well.
That was also 94. I think I bought that not far away from when I bought Pearl Jam. Because at the time, CDs were like $17.
I had Nevermind on cassette, but I had Pearl Jam 10 on CD. And yeah.
So every summer,
Guns N' Roses Use Your Illusion too.
That's a good one. But we always take there would always be a convention somewhere in the country, and so we'd always drive to wherever that was. And one year it was somewhere in California in '87. And that was my first exposure to a CD player because Dad had just gotten one of the first ones that was for the car, and it had this huge balance plate on it, and it was just ridiculous, like to keep it from skipping.
Yeah.
And I remember we bought Michael Jackson's "Bad," and there was one other CD we got because I remember that was it was like the biggest treat for us because we went to the music store and my sister and I were not allowed to buy a CD. We could buy a tape though, and I bought Back to the Future soundtrack.
Oh, that's a good one.
And my sister, I can't remember what she bought, but like it was a big deal. Like, oh my God, would you buy a cassette? But I remember like Dad putting on like this new technology of a CD, and so. When I bought Injustice for All, it was to play it on that in the car like a year later.
That's awesome.
My dad, when he bought the Kenwood sound system, there were a couple CDs like very early on, and Phil Collins. I think Genesis Phil Collins, Straight Jacket. What is it? Is that the name of the album?
Yeah.
Straight Jacket Required. Is that what it is?
No straight jackets required.
No straight jacket required. So, sorry, I'm a little fuzzy. But I remember those Phil Collins albums, and he got the soundtrack to The Big Chill.
That was a big soundtrack,
yeah. And,
The Big Chill is an amazing soundtrack.
It is.
The Big Chill might be one of the most perfect soundtracks.
It's one of the, especially before you could, because there's a lot of, I wouldn't call them one-hit wonders, but there's a lot of songs on that soundtrack that
quintessential songs.
Yeah, that you wouldn't buy. You wouldn't go and buy a greatest hits of this band because you really just want that one song. And that soundtrack had a lot of those on it, which made it such a good soundtrack.
It made it, especially in that time period. We're talking about the late 80s. You wanted stuff on CD. They hadn't released some of those albums yet on CD.
So here's the set list of The Big Chill, and it's My Girl by The Temptations, Whiter Shade of Pale, Joy to the World by Three Dog Night, I Heard Through the Grapevine, Marvin Gaye, Tell Him by The Exciters. That's a great song. Good Lovin' by The Rascals. I Second That Emotion by The Miracles. Ain't Too Proud to Beg by The Temptations. And You Make Me Feel Like a Woman by Aretha Franklin. Like that is...
You can't always get what you want?
Tracks of My Tears is on there too.
I know they play it in the movie. You can't always get what you want, but it might not be.
Yeah, Stones probably wouldn't allow.
Yeah, I don't think they're. Yeah, they don't allow it on there. But yeah, it's The Big Chill and Mini Driver, Grosse Point Blank. Those two albums are fucking amazing.
Good,
and if you can get the original cut or original
Grosse
press
Point Blank, it's worth
of Grosse Point Blank if you want,
it's worth
because it's got the Fitz and the Maytals pressure drop, but done by the Specials. You can't get it on iTunes or any digitally distributed music. It's only on the original cut. I happen to have it because I ripped it from Napster 150
Oh, you ripped it though. Like there are certain sound. Actually, when you look at the most valuable CDs, they're all soundtracks. Because
compilations.
Because they're compilations, or it was such a niche market for people who actually wanted soundtracks. And Grosse Point Blank is one of them that's worth a lot of money if you have the original.
It's funny because Nick meant, or Chris, you mentioned look at who we have. We have a special guest star tonight.
And that's the end of the show, guys. We like to thank our patrons.
See you later, Chris. Take care.
I am going to be jumping off very soon.
Is Chris high as fuck again this week?
Nah, he took it too late, man.
No, that was last week. I was higher than fucking.
He did send some interesting texts this week.
I did.
Yeah. I don't, Jeremy. I don't quite understand the question. Like, what album would you want to fight for? I don't understand.
Except for any Beatles or Rolling Stones or covers.
Like, what do you mean by fight for?
I'm going to fight for my right to party.
There you go.
The text that I sent.
Had that on cassette though.
I never know.
I showed the one and
the basketball one.
No, I showed the other one and people were like, "That's not funny."
What?
Well,
wait, which one?
You know the one.
The basketball one?
No. The opening theme for a TV show.
You showed that when I sent to you guys. You showed
that was you.
That was Nick.
Oh,
that was Nick.
Because I wrote, "I'm going to hell for this one."
Okay.
You are.
Jack just threw Chris under the bus.
I thought that was Chris. I'm sorry. I apologize.
No,
Chris got people are thinking Chris is like even.
I send you guys a lot of the dark stuff that I think hilarious.
But you had the one that Chris sent too. I was like going. Why don't you talk about that on the podcast, Chris?
Nope.
We were talking about a lot of music, and we were talking about the Big Chill soundtrack and soundtracks that have a lot of great hits. We were talking about the early days of CD. What was the first CD you owned, Jack? What was the first CD you bought?
CD I owned?
CD, yeah. What did you? Okay, well, while he thinks about that,
it was probably Boston or Journey or
that checks.
Or I've been listening a lot of Huey Lewis in the News. I've been listening. To them lately.
My dad had 4, I think, on CD.
Sports.
Van Halen,
Led Zeppelin. Sports is when they really came
Van
into
Halen,
their own, don't you think?
51. Is it 5150?
5150, yeah.
Yeah, my dad had that on CD.
The entire collection.
Yeah.
So I remember a lot of my dad's early CDs.
Rush.
That was
I had
all
Rush.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of my collection. It was like.
Did you have one of those like slider cases too, where you put the little? It's like fake wood kind of plastic. You just.
I think I did. Yeah, I think I did.
Yeah, I had. And
then eventually they just ended up in the glove compartment.
The big Trapper Keeper thing, that had like
200
sleeves.
Case Logic.
The Case Logic, yeah.
I never liked taking them out of the original. I liked the.
I had a lot of. I had on 8-track. I had a lot of Queen and Zeppelin.
Oh,
I've still got an 8-track at my parents' house. I think I have like 20.
Because my mom, when I was getting a car stereo in my car, she goes, "Why don't you just get an 8-track tape player? You'll have all those 8-track tapes." I go, "Yeah, they weigh like 100 pounds and they're like this big." I go, "Sorry." I go, she goes, "But you're wasting money." I go, "Well, it's okay because the tapes are better." This is when they went to cassette tapes.
Mm-hmm. They were better.
Well, you could. I mean, remember 8-tracks? You couldn't just skip. You could skip a track, but you couldn't skip to the next song. And you couldn't. I was like,
right.
No,
you had four tracks per thing.
Because I had a lot of 8-tracks because I had an 8-track player in my room. So but I said, no, we're not transferring that over to my car.
When I bought in '99, I bought an old GTO and it had an 8-track player in it.
It does look like her.
Okay. Yeah, it does look like so. Yeah, but I immediately took that thing out. I was like, I'm not, using an 8-track in this old car.
No.
Just
they did have it in the van. Wasn't it in the van, the Dharma van? Wasn't that 8-track?
They did have an 8-track in that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think the one that they
as soon as it gets running it,
when Global Cash Card gave the van away, it had an 8-track tape player with that Three Dog Night in there.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. If it was it had everything.
Wow.
Amount of money they dropped on that thing.
It had to be 35,000 to 40,000
or more, I would bet.
But Jesus, if I remember correctly, I think it was 35 to 40,000 because they gave Emerson. I think Emerson got 35,000.
Wow.
I'm like going, well, if you kept Emerson away and did the van, you can give me 65,000.
What did you guys get out of it?
I got a free trip to Los Angeles and hotel, and
that's like
you guys didn't get paid,
and y'all were in downtown LA too, so it wasn't.
It was part of our. I don't think we got paid every month. They paid us a pretty good chunk of change every month. For podcasting at that time, we were doing pretty well.
Yeah, you're pretty high up. Yeah.
I mean, we're getting. They paid us pretty well. I can't complain about that.
Oh,
and plus, he flew us to Hawaii, put us in a 5-star hotel. Yeah. I had his Cuban cigars and his marijuana in my safe until he got there.
Nice.
Yeah.
I wish I had that kind of money. Just stupid money.
I wish I had that kind of marijuana.
Yeah. It's funny because we were walking. It was me, Cliff, Jay, and my wife, and we're walking, and the security guard goes, "Let me show you a different direction you can go." He didn't think we were staying there at the hotel. I'm like going, and I didn't catch on. Cindy goes, "No, we're staying here." He goes, "Oh, I'm sorry." I go, "I never even thought about that. I thought he was just giving us a shortcut to the rooms."
So, not to go back to the music conversation, but Will Fry just posted something that I need to read because this is thinking about this is actually kind of fucking crazy. So, Christmas of '94, 7th grade. Got a CD player with 4 CDs: REM, Collective Soul, Green Day, Dookie, and Soundgarden, Super Unknown. Dude, that is fucking awesome, right?
I know two of those.
Nevermind and the Downward Spiral on the same day, dude. That right there is such a collection of music. Like the '90s was something fierce for the music industry. Like you look back and I mean, with the exception of Collective Soul, I mean, Collective Soul was big then. They didn't have the staying power, but everybody else in that list is still a powerhouse.
I know Green Day and REM. I don't know Collective Soul, and I don't know.
Yeah, you do. totally know Soundgarden.
You've heard of
everyone knows Black Hole Sun. You know
Chris Cornell from Soundgarden. And then Collective Soul as well.
And Soundgarden, and
Super
Nirvana,
Unknown and Downward Spiral.
I'd have to hear this. I'd have to hear a song from them.
You definitely know them. But that's like.
How do you know? I could be stupid. You don't know.
Well, we all know.
That's true.
That.
I mean, we were kind of wondering if that.
I'm getting older. I may not remember things that happened yesterday. So
you're sure that's not Sophia?
Come on, Jack.
I mean,
you're hip.
I don't. I literally just grabbed this off the system I use, and because I said, "Oh, that looks like." Okay.
Grabbed it off the system.
It looks like Gloria from.
It's his Google systems.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He just cropped out the parts that were flesh.
But man, the '90s, man, '90s had some fucking staying power.
One as good as the '80s or '70s.
I would disagree, Jack. I think the '90s.
We've been reminiscing hard. Chris is going to fight you.
Well, Jack. The thing that's interesting about '67 through '77 period is that you had so many different sounds and so many albums. It was a decade that can never come again. As in just the amount of art, the amount of different kinds of music. But then that period though, I'll be kind and say like 89 through 96. Like that period though, it was kind of the same thing, and there's a lot of stuff that got just thrown out of like, hey, see if this works, and that will never happen again because now it's too much of an industry. And streaming and internet has pretty much eliminated the radio and
the album. Yeah, the idea of an album. So
CNN has a series about the different decades. I think it was CNN, but there was like the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s. I think like Tom Hanks narrates a bunch of them or whatever. But they did one on 90s, and it was the 90s music, and it was an hour-long episode about the impact of 90s music then and then on today. And it blew me away. Like from a hip hop perspective to rock and roll, grunge coming out of nowhere, out of the Pacific Northwest, like all that stuff kind of like.
That's why he's never heard of Soundgarden.
That's true. That's what he said. I'm not a fan of grunge.
Yeah.
And that's when Pearl Jam came out, right?
It's like take a bath. I mean, I don't know. wash your hair. Come on, you're gross.
Well, there's a
yeah. No, that's it. I mean, just the '90s were awesome for music.
That's how.
I'm not saying it was bad, but I'm saying I'd go with the '70s or '80s.
But the grunge movement, you can tell the '80s was kind of fake in a way, and it was all just kind of a process. There's a guitarist, and I can't remember what band he was in from the '80s.
He was on the Southwest Spiral, Downward Spiral.
Southwest Spiral.
Southwest Downward Spiral.
I want to fly you like
you got an album and a bag of peanuts.
But he talks about that how when he had in the late '80s they had all these hits, and then all of a sudden when grunge hit, he's like, oh, this isn't the end for us. I just need to buy a flannel shirt and I need to do this and I'll just change and then we'll just keep making more hits. And it was like, no, he didn't realize, like a lot of people, that the '80s were done. Like that sound was done.
Yeah.
The synthesizer.
I mean,
it's exactly what it was. The '80s, like grunge killed the '80s rock vibe, or the pop vibe, if you will.
Grunge killed hair metal.
Cured hair metal. Yeah. It was like the last hair metal hit song was Cherry Pie. That's it. Like Warrants. Cherry Pie was the last. In some circles it's known as the song that killed the '80s.
Maybe because the videos were so good in the '80s. Maybe that's what
Well, that's what that.
Because you just mentioned Cherry Pie.
There were great movies in the '90s too. I mean, they were still doing videos, and
it wasn't the same.
I disagree.
Well, in the '90s, music videos became
you were just
more
busy
like
working.
art piece.
Okay, you were being
like
a dad.
The '80s was like, hey, we had this new medium. We have to figure out how to put this song onto video and have it be on a screen. They decided to make a statement with their videos. Like all the videos in the '90s, you think about like Runaway Train, right? That was a statement for what that song was about. Like you actually had like art being made with the music videos. I mean, with the exception of Genesis. I mean, Genesis did have that '80s video with the puppets of Ronald Reagan and Nancy Reagan, which is pretty amazing. But
not thinking of Michael Jackson because his videos were beyond. But like when I think of '80s as music videos as an art form, I always think of Aha. Of just Take on Me with the drawing and the mirror. Like that was so.
What about Van Halen's Hot for Teacher? Come on.
I mean, yeah.
Where's Waldo? Come on, that was great. They had the little Van Halen guys, the young Van Halen guys,
and then November Rain.
November Rain. I think that's my cherry pie right there. So that's like the last.
Those videos were wild, man.
Yeah, I've seen a breakdown of that video that just like rips it to shreds, and it's pretty hilarious.
What happened to it? Why? Because it was such a big deal, MTV, because people would literally like. I remember David Bowie launched one of with that China Girl one where they had a countdown to him.
Oh, they had countdown to Michael Jackson.
I know, but that's what I'm saying.
That's the first year of MTV, though. 83, roughly. But basically by 95, MTV had run its course, though. When you start getting into Single Out and all the reality TV stuff that happened in the mid 90s to late 90s, it was done.
Killed it.
And the music wasn't as good, so that hurt too.
I think we just
in a Barbie world.
Why do you have to go to that
Mickey,
song?
you're so fine. You're so fine. You blow my mind. Hey, Mickey.
Those are on the same level to me.
Yeah, they are. They're the same annoying. Just
99 red balloons.
I mean, Jeremy brings up a good point. Like, what Bon Jovi to me is totally 80s, whereas in Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction is an 80s record, whereas in Use Your Illusion to me is not 80s at all.
Yeah.
They really encompass the decades very well.
Chris Dorn's right. Kiss Unmasked on MTV. Yeah.
But I would say that Bon Jovi is exclusively 80s for me. Like there's no spanning decades for Bon Jovi in my opinion. I think he's pure 80s.
No, he
rode that. He was living on a prayer.
Exactly. I get a lot of shit for my opinion on Bon Jovi, but I never thought of him as an artist. I think he was a good person to hear the sound of the time and say, I'm going to write a song to that sound. And I'm going to make a hit out of it. But he never had his own thing. I know. I get it.
I don't know why you're bashing John. No wonder Jay hates
He's written some good songs. I'm just saying though, like his stuff to me was capitalizing on what was current. He never really tried to be an innovator. He's
like a European John Cougar Mellencamp.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't like John Cougar Mellencamp. I didn't like him when he was John Cougar.
Once he ditched the Cougar, it was just
Well,
yeah.
He
tried to do a song.
Didn't he? Oh no, he married
to do
Meg
another
Ryan,
song that. He did recently.
No, the song, my favorite song of his.
He was like, "I'm okay with plastic."
Until he starts singing.
Yeah,
I go, I hate the song.
My sister, who
he sings that song "Small Town" or something.
Yeah,
try it in a small town.
Born in a small town. And then Little Titties with Jack and Diane. Yeah.
I like the Tasty Free.
Yeah. My sister, who's never had a very broad taste in music, went to go see John Cougar Mellencamp in concert one time. And the guy, I couldn't believe it. John Fogerty was the opening act for John Cougar Mellencamp.
Really?
And she gets back to me like a couple days later. She's like, hey, this guy named John Fogerty performed ahead of John Cougar Mellencamp.
She didn't know who he was?
She didn't know who he was. Yeah, and she's like, she was like, she knew Bad Moon Rising.
Mm-hmm.
She knew that one song.
Right.
And she was
Bathroom on the Right.
So much, Bathroom on the Right. Yeah, she knew. She's like, he was so much better than John Cougar Mellencamp. She goes, he was so lively and so much fun, and then John Cougar just put us all to sleep. And I was like, really? Yeah. Okay.
Again, I just wasn't into him.
My daughter's been dabbling in 60s music, and so it's kind of funny because every now and then like I'll hear her playing music and I'm like, oh shit, she's getting into some CCR. Fuck.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, what is she? It's like
that's kind of awesome.
I still think you can't name a band that was a better singles band than CCR.
Mm-hmm.
Like every single they released, they were not really an album band. They were a singles band. And like, they were just one after the other in a 3-year period, but never had a single number one hit, all number twos, but
really
unbelievable.
Yeah. Put me in, coach.
I'm ready to play today.
Yeah. Anyway, Jeremy brought up a poll, like what decade was the best, and it's like, well, that's not really a fair argument.
Who didn't pick the 50s? What are you talking about?
I love the coasters, man.
I love the 40s, man. Come on.
I want to be able to punch my wife and tell a racist joke. And oh wait, I can still do that.
There's actually a new
Chris
artist.
is like, you're doing it, Matt. You're doing it.
You guys talked about Matthew Perry, right?
We talked so much.
We dabbled a little bit.
We did. Okay. We talked Star Wars we talked Legos. We talked about.
I did have a story about Legos.
On the other
we
side
got really.
of life.
It was a deep.
Yeah, we got deep and emotional.
I just felt bad. I felt bad for Matthew Perry's parents when they're showing up. No, yeah. When they showed up to see his, they showed up at his house.
Oh, they're the ones who found him. I didn't know that.
No, it was the assistant found him, but they showed up at the house, and the press is right there taking pictures of them driving up. I go, fuck.
Well, isn't his father press?
No, his father's an actor. Well, yeah, his stepfather is, but still, right. It's a come on, guys, back off. But anyway, it was sad news. I mean, and he was my favorite friend.
I mean, I think he's most everybody's favorite friend.
Yeah, and he was great on the West Wing. And
Phoebe's my favorite friend.
Actually, you said that before, Matt. I remember that.
Yeah, I identify with Phoebe the most, especially carrying triplets and all that. So
you carry triplets? Wow, I didn't know that.
I carry it well.
Have you guys seen they kind of someone brought back that clip of the reunion though, and they're kind of going around asking questions about like. So, since Friends is over, do you guys keep in touch, this, that, and the other? And I was like, oh, yeah, we do a good job keeping in touch with each other. If we ever need each other, we're always there to pick up the phone, blah, blah, blah. This, that, and the other. Then all of a sudden, Matthew Perry goes, yeah, I don't hear from any of these people.
He was like a smart ass, but
no, don't think so? It was awkward as fuck because they're all like,
I think the only three that really stay together, were the girls.
The girls, yeah.
They always stay together.
Yeah. But that makes sense. So, I mean, I think from I don't know. Maybe just from a male female perspective, I just think like maybe I don't know. I just think that men have a lot more harder time like putting up fronts and like getting past like egos and stuff like that.
Exactly. So. I would think Matthew LeBlanc and Matthew Perry would have talked a little bit more, but like I could see David Schwimmer, and from what I've seen on TV and like the one time I was around him, I thought he was a dick.
But he did get the group together and say, hey, we should all make the same amount of money. We should all do that. And that's what kept the show going for 9 years because there was none of that ego crap.
Right.
How many shows were, they're making more than me. And it's like, Suzanne Summer, but she was right. I mean, she should have been making at least close to what John Ritter was making. But, but since she was a female back in the 70s, she didn't get the equal pay.
Jeremy brings up a good question. Like, what actor's death took you the most by surprise? Mine is Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Mine was John Belushi.
Yeah, I could see that.
Huh.
Chris Farley.
Yeah, that's another. Yeah.
Huh.
Robin Williams was another one, but then when I found out what he had, then it made sense. Especially when you find out he killed himself, you're like, going, "I gotta kill himself." Why would
Phil Hartman? That's a good one.
Yeah, Phil Hartman, yeah.
He's murdered.
Oh yeah, that one.
His wife. That was brutal.
Mm-hmm. And Phil Hartman was one of those that like, I just always missed his voice. It's weird, but like he had such a
Anna
voice.
Nicole Simpson.
Princess Di.
God!
I'm gonna say Princess Di.
I mean, there's things I missed about
Reagan. She got blown away.
She did
so many times.
Phil Hartman though, especially like what you're saying, Matt. Like, I mean, I always like it when I see interviews with SNL characters or actors who, when they ask about Phil Hartman, like you can see how much they all loved him. You
never heard a bad word about because Chris.
Well, and he was such a team player too.
Chris Farley loved him, but they said he could be because he was always on drugs and alcohol.
Right.
He could be an asshole too. So
right.
But it's John Candy.
Yeah, John Candy. Yeah, that was a big blow. Especially I think
he died young.
He was young. Yeah, all of them were young when they died. But yeah, I think John Candy, especially for Matt and Chris and I's generation, because we grew up as kids with. I know you did too, Jack, but I was saying like as kids though.
I actually brought him up.
I know, but I'm saying,
well,
like,
but yeah, but
we miss him. We miss him more.
He was the first like goofy, adult guy that we saw on TV.
Yeah, because like you think about Plane Trains, Uncle Buck, Home Alone. There's a lot of stuff that was as formating as our childhood. Jackie, you think you got something in your nose?
I got blue snot.
clearly, the poll is who misses John Candy more,
John Ritter
or the other guys?
Yes, John, the retired guy. Yeah,
John Ritter didn't really shock me that much. I mean, I appreciate John Ritter, but at that time, I only knew him from Problem Child. No, I knew him from Problem Child.
I'm trying to go back to the first actor that I remember dying on a show that I watched, and I got to go with Coach. I mentioned Coach earlier in this episode when we were talking Cheers briefly, and it was because I was younger watching that show, and then all of a sudden he wasn't on there, and then they had this in memory, moment, and you're like, oh,
wait,
he died. Coach? So.
Coach.
Or no, I'm not sorry, Coach, but Cheers.
Cheers,
but
Cheers.
Coach.
Cheers. Because at first I was like, Coach.
Sorry.
Oh, you're talking about Coach from Cheers.
From Cheers. Coach from Cheers. Sorry.
I the show in Boston?
You guys confused. So
that overrated bar, that one.
No, I'm just like I'm trying to think of like early.
Mine was
Jack. You missed earlier. We were talking about Halloween costumes, and Chris dressed up his son as a fan with a black eye. And then
with broken glasses.
Yeah, broken glasses. And Chris dressed up as a roided out Boston fan. It was crazy.
That's good.
I thought maybe, just maybe this one.
Hold on, block the
entire fucking episode without bringing up this farce of a of.
Yeah,
but speaking of, gentlemen, this.
Wait, no, I was going to say,
no,
Smith and Jones, Pete Dool. He killed himself. You guys don't know who you don't know who Pete Dool is?
No, but
Alias Smith and Jones was
I know that show.
It basically was what would happen if Butch Cassidy and Sundance had got immunity. And so it was devastating to me because I think I was like 11, loved the show. Then they didn't even take time off. They just brought this other guy in, Roger Davis, who was a narrator for it, who didn't look anything like Pete Dool. Didn't have the same chemistry with I'm drawing like his name, but
Samantha from Bewitched.
No, but and everyone talked about him like he was just a great guy, but a lot of people some think his girlfriend killed him. But
now that I'm thinking about it, the first actor that comes to my mind that I know died was probably Brandon Lee.
Crow.
The Crow.
John retired guy, Bobby Ewing. He didn't die though. It was a dream. You were dreaming, John the retired guy.
Real quick before Chris goes, just to share one more memory. We were talking about this at the very beginning of the episode. First thoughts of death as when you were a kid. It's a popular topic, and I'm staying on trend with it. I remember being driven, like you're in the car and you're listening to the news as a kid, and I probably was like 4 or 5, and I remember hearing this story about this kid putting a hairdryer in the bathtub and then killing themselves.
Oh shit.
And I remember hearing those words that this child had put a hairdryer in the bathtub and killed themselves. And for me, it was not only the first time that I understood that a child could die, but the idea of suicide and that why would they?
Oh, he did it.
I assumed it was an accident. Okay.
I assumed I now as an adult understand that it was probably an accident, but as a child, I didn't understand that.
Right.
As a child, you're just hearing the news and you think, how did a child do that to themselves? And that idea of ending your life as a child was like it kind of hung with me, like not in a great way.
I saw a fucked up video yesterday.
So anyway, there you go, Chris. Good night.
Yeah.
I saw a fucked up video.
Got to rest up. You're going to a game soon, aren't you?
Yeah. Gotta get in fighting condition. Do
you play the Rocky theme when you're running?
That's Philadelphia. He would rather die.
Well, I don't see him going to Philadelphia and starting a fight.
Yeah.
All right. I am respectfully going to bow out of the show. You guys have a great night.
God bless, Chris.
How do you like them apples?
Boston. I got a number. Yeah.
Bunch of fucking dickheads.
Hey, if this guy's 70, take him on.
I saw a video yesterday or day before yesterday of I don't think this guy realized how close he was to dying. And it's
we're not talking about the hockey thing now.
No, not the hockey thing. No, it's
I did a video on that.
It's a woman's birthday party, and she's about to cut the cake, and she has a big ass blade in her right hand. And a guy comes up behind, and I think it's either her boyfriend or her brother or somebody next to her on her right, next to the blade. But another guy behind her comes up and wants to put her head in the cake. And so he does, but she's got the knife in his hand, but your natural reaction is to jerk up, right?
Yeah.
And the blade actually hits the guy right here on the head. And it's like,
wow.
I mean, if it went in his eye or anywhere else,
wow,
it would have probably killed him.
Talk about karmic.
Yeah.
Like, what are you fucking doing anyway?
You're drinking. You're not thinking. Sometimes
you're drinking. You're not thinking.
You're not thinking.
You're hitting an old guy in the stands.
Yeah, it happens. Oh, so you talk about the guy that died on the ice?
We did not.
No, you did not.
But it's like I'm sure you guys saw that was like a decade ago or 15 years ago, the little kid's birthday party before they took out the alcohol and silly string. Yeah, like when he was a little kid, he blew silly string. The flames just engulfed this kid, blowing out the candles.
Wow.
And they had to change all the silly string stuff after.
I was like going because I didn't know that did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just kids being kids, just like
right.
Yeah. Who wouldn't do it?
Yeah.
Especially if you don't like the kid. Especially Chris at a football game. Poor Chris.
Yeah. But going to the hockey thing, though, they've actually found another video of that same guy, and that appears to be a tactic that he used against people he does not like.
Well,
he had slashed another guy on the thigh another season, doing the same thing.
Yeah, fuck! If there's a prior,
yeah.
At first, I thought it was okay. That just maybe caught a rut, because if your skates, sometimes they'll lock up on you on the ice, and he lost his balance. But when I watch it, if you watch at the end, he kicks. He actually
lifts his leg and kicks.
And kicking in hockey is one of the worst penalties you can get. I mean, even if you fall on the ground and you run into someone, you both go on the ground. If you push off on the skater to get up, even if it's by accident, it's a game misconduct. I mean, you're out of that game. The next game, if you kick somebody, it's a match, which is the worst penalty. So this guy, like I said,
we should put this a little bit into context, though, for everybody listening who might not know. So for everyone out there who's listening to this, 5 days ago, in an English
Adam Johnson
in an English hockey league, a guy on opposing teams basically slammed into a guy, but as he was pushing off, kicked his leg out and slashed his throat with his skate. Caused him to bleed out and die on the rink, on the ice.
And this guy got up.
He got up. Yeah, I couldn't believe.
But you don't want to see. There's a lot. I mean,
you don't want to see it. I watched it one time, and that was good.
I said, "Oh my god, that's just ridiculous." And people don't realize how sharp skates are. I mean, like I said, I still have cuts on my hands from when I sharpen skates. It just god damn it, the blades are like razors. So that's a weapon on his. And I years ago, I was playing in a beer league, and our goalie, there was a collision. The guy went up over him, and our goalie's just laying on the ice. We're like, get up off your lazy ass, But then we saw blood coming out of his pad. He hit him right above the knee.
Oh, there's a vein there, right?
Yeah, and it was like, oh my god! And we had a dentist on our team. He stopped the bleeding, put a tourniquet, and the paramedic said he saved his life.
Yeah,
it was because it looked like a piece of a honey baked ham. So it was really deep, and it's because the blade just slight. If he just had where he didn't have the protective pad there, took him a year to play again. It was It was scary. It was like, oh my god, and he lost. Like I said, he lost a lot of blood.
There's this emergency kit that you can kind of get. It's like called Stop the Bleed, I think. And it's like a pad or what have you, that you can use if you come upon a scene. So we have some in our vehicles. I know I don't think I'm going to be able to do it, but my wife, who was.
It's like that scene. There's two scenes in Band of Brothers. You know, like early on when that guy walks out, you know, and he's just blown to shit. You know, and the guy's like, "Hey, buddy, come here," like, you know, and he's basically gonna die.
Yeah,
I have no idea how I would have fucking reacted to that, you know. And then the same thing is like when Hooper shoots himself with the Luger in the leg, you know, it's just like, oh my god. Like,
but they say the Luger, anything that you can do to stop the bleed helps. You know, it gains time. The worst thing you can do is to just let it continually like bleed out. So,
well, with Hooper, he had so many layers of clothes on, they couldn't find the.
Well, I mean, that's what he shot himself in the inner thigh, and if you nick that artery, you're dead. It doesn't matter what you do, you're gone. But
Texas Rangers won the World Series.
I get weak just thinking about it, though. But yeah. Oh, and I wanted to. Him just speaking the Texas Rangers made me think of it. Like Matt, it wasn't the Titans that were wearing the Oilers uniforms. It was the Texans that were going to wear the Oilers uniforms.
Oh, okay. Well,
and they're actually getting sued.
Really?
No, it was a college. It was a college team.
Was it a college team? Okay,
it was a Houston college team. No, but the Titans did wear.
Did they? Okay.
They did wear the. They did wear the Oilers uniforms, but the school, I think, a school in Houston was wearing similar. They weren't wearing similar, and the NFL said you need to stop.
Right.
Oh wow.
It was a no fun league, and then they stopped. They
were wearing the powder blue, the red face mask, the white.
Yeah,
it was basically the Oilers. Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. Okay.
But well, the Oilers don't exist anymore. So I'm like going. I would have said, "Fuck you." The Oilers don't exist anymore.
Yeah. What are you going to do? Sue me for wearing a brown helmet?
Yeah. But I mean, the Titans though they own that. They own it. That's just what it is. That's why the Titans colors are still the Oilers colors.
I get that, but you know.
I mean, I agree with you, Jack. I think it's bullshit. Like the Oilers do not exist. So,
because San Diego was talking about getting a what's one of those XFL teams, and they said, "What should they call them?" I said, "Call them the Chargers."
Yeah, right. Did you guys see? I found that interesting. I kind of agree with it. That the NFL is actually considering adopting the XFL's kickoff way they kick off instead of the way the NFL every other.
How do they do it?
So they line up everybody 10 yards apart, and the only people that are allowed are the kicker and the receiver in the back and the ends, opposite ends of the fields. And so basically, when they kick the ball off, they just hit each other from 10 yards away, and then
instead of full speed.
Instead of full speed, because I mean, me being on kick return all through high school, that is the worst thing in the world because you've got somebody running full sprint at you,
right?
And then you're just standing there. You might get like 10 yards back and then can come back, but all the momentum is with the kick team.
What they should do is just put the ball at the 25-yard line and have the kickoff.
Because let's take all of the kicking out of football.
Well, I'm saying like 90% of the kicks go out of the end zone anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, why are we wasting our time with this? And you have the guys that are on the special team, they run all the way up to because they don't want to get cut if they don't run all the way, even though the ball's going to go on the 25-yard line. They're still, I don't know, but you have kickers today though. They're kicking a 60-yard field goal is not a big deal anymore.
Yeah, no,
it's like okay.
And then when somebody does miss like a 34-yard line, people are just like, "How the fuck could you make that?"
Yeah, well, because people are making 50 and 60 yarders like it's nothing. Right. When back in 60s, 70s, and 80s, it was like,
it's not a guaranteed thing if you got to the 40-yard line and lined up and
right, exactly,
something.
Yeah.
Do you guys know about the Michigan scandal?
Oh yeah.
So it keeps developing more and more, and from what I heard today, it wasn't just Michigan scouting teams they were going to play. They were scouting teams that they didn't want to play. And so any team that had potential to go to the college football playoff last year, they would go scout them and then give all the signals and signs to a team that were going to play. That team was going to play. So it would give them a leg up. And so that's why, especially towards the end of last year, there was a lot of really weird games where like these teams had sucked. And then all of a sudden they blew out like a high-ranked team. And you're like, how did that happen like that? And that's what they're saying is that Michigan gave them like all this intel.
Oh, plus they have one guy he was on the side. I forget what team it was Michigan was playing, but he literally was on their sidelines. And he was stealing their play. And, and so Harbaugh's like, I didn't know anything about it.
Right.
Come on, how could you not know anything about it? Now, rumor is now that the Raiders have fired their head coach, McDaniels, who got a 6-year contract. He still has 4.5 years left on it. He's getting paid millions to do nothing. He was doing nothing anyway.
Yeah.
But rumor is they're going to go after
Harbaugh.
I don't see why though. I mean, Harbaugh has not won anything. He's
well, he won USD in San Diego. Then he won at Stanford. Then he won at Frisco. And it looks like the only way he's winning at Michigan is because he's cheating. I mean, I think the NFL
that seems perfect for the Raiders, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think what the NFL should do is if you get penalized in college, and because they're going to get screwed. They're going to get what was a nuclear, like SMU did years ago. There was so much cheating that they got blown up, and it took them years to recover.
Right.
Michigan's a big program. They probably won't do what they did to SMU.
Yeah, and the NCAA is not what they once were anymore.
No, but
there's too much money in the league now.
To me, if you, it's like Pete Carroll. He screwed up. Who was it? USC.
Right.
But
then he landed the.
Yeah, he went to the NFL, so it was like a big deal. I
do remember that whole.
I mean, to me, if it proves true, like everything that they're saying Michigan did, to me, it's a no-brainer. It should be a 10-year, no bowl, no playoff suspension.
They won't do that.
You can still have a program.
They won't do that to Michigan.
They would never do it to Michigan, but they should. It's like they did to Alabama. Like Alabama from like 93 through 2003. They punished the shit out of them.
Because like this, but I think that it should carry over to the. You shouldn't be allowed to fuck up. You shouldn't be allowed to fuck up a college program and then go into the pros right away and make millions.
Hey Jack, there's something on your sweatshirt that's bugging me.
Yeah, you know what it is?
It's a tag.
First time I've wore this. It's a tag. I didn't even know I had it.
I've
even watched it. And
I thought there was a piece of fuzz actually on your neck, and then I was like, "No, you
I see it now. Now I'm not going to be able to take my eyes off it now."
It's that little microphone.
It does like your Garth Brooks over there.
No, I didn't notice until like 5 minutes ago. What is on my? Is that like spider on me or something?
I thought you were just trying to be cool. You're like flashing, like, "Hey, you know
how kids used to wear their tags in their hats.
Some of them still do.
I had a friend I went to Vegas with. He had the tag. I go, do you know how ridiculous you look? So I call him Tag Boy. And to this day, if I see him, I don't see him that often. I go, hey, Tag Boy, what's up?
Is it Jay?
Because he had it's not Jay.
I can't imagine what you'll say to me if we don't see each other for a long time and then you see me.
It did drive me. I mean, you still say the straight bill hat with the tag still on it drives me crazy.
Yeah.
I was just like going, well, it proves. I go. What does it prove? You're an idiot. I mean,
right.
Well, some of those like expensive shoes, like if you go through StockX, you can get them verified as being authentic, and people will wear the tags because it's proof that it's been verified that it's authentic.
That's dangerous though, because you can get your ass.
Because shoes are, shoes are nuts.
That was something that kind of similar to what you and me and Chris were talking about, like how things change on a dime. Like
not you, Jack.
At least where I grew up, when you got a brand new pair of shoes, the first thing you wanted to do was kind of scuff them up because I remember everyone would call you out like, "Oh, Matt's got some new shoes," because they were just like bright white or whatever, and like you didn't want to be like that dork with the new shoes. But now,
not with white,
them to be perfect. Like they want them to be perfect forever.
I remember getting some.
Go ahead.
I remember getting some black Nike Air Force high tops. It's like, and I just loved the fact that they were black. They looked really like cool, So those I didn't want to mess up, but I do remember if you had a pair of new white tennis shoes, you're like, you can't have it. That would be too pretty.
I know when I was a kid, everyone got into wearing Converse.
Yes,
that's what it was back then.
With different color ones.
Yeah.
And so I had purple that didn't match anything.
I think you were saying that once.
Yeah. Purple Converse. And I was like,
I got a rock.
There was a Converse shoe. I mean, I could be making this up, but I remember sometime in the 80s, you could get like a plain Converse and then you had color things you could slide in to change the color.
I do remember that.
The little, symbol. So you could make them purple or yellow or red or whatever you wanted to.
I remember my first cool pair of shoes because I would get the Kmart specials or the Wallabies. Yeah, that you'd get, and it's like, because now, and funny, it's like a few years ago, Wallabies were cool. I go, He's getting my ass kicked for wearing wallabies.
Right.
When did this become cool?
Right.
But it was a pair of Nike when Nike first came out. It wasn't the leather ones. It was canvas ones, and it had the swoosh. And it's like I got them. But it's like yeah. And then I bought myself some Stan Smiths, and those were pure. Those were leather with green on it, and what you could do is you could polish them. Mm-hmm. So they would. I mean, I kept those. I had those things for over a year. Just my foot didn't grow. But those were the days, and now shoes are like what, thousands of dollars, and
some of them.
Just get me a pair of shoes. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't need to be cool anymore.
A good pair of shoes will last. I bought bought these Yoda shoes. Yeah, they were Yoda themed, but I love them because
are they back, it just made me laugh. Like,
are they backwards?
No,
the heels in the front and the toes.
No. Yoda didn't wear shoes, silly. He had his 3 little fingers out. Yeah,
they do have a. I won't go into it. Yeah, go ahead and just bite it off, Chuck.
I don't want to rip the thing because I've done that before. Where you rip the back of the shirt, you go, oh crap.
Well, and at your age, if you bite too hard, it could rip out your teeth.
Exactly.
That too. Exactly. I mean, if you try to rip it, your skin's like so delicate now that you can probably cut yourself. You might lose a finger.
Plus, I'm on blood thinners. So
yes,
I would bleed out.
Really rolling the dice.
Yeah. I hit my knee the other day, just a little tiny, and I'm like going. So I was doing something in the garage. I looked down. I go, what the hell? It was all the way down my leg. I'm like going.
And there was a little tiny ice skate just sitting there.
Yeah.
All right.
We're great new pair every year.
Oh wow!
I did want to say something about Legos. Remember last week I talked about Legos.
Yeah, you're never gonna get us to
and how my daughter.
Oh yeah, I remember now.
My wife threw everything in the thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So my grandson's over here the other day, and I'm looking. I go, what the? I cannot find these 2 pieces. I go. I'm looking in the thing. I'm emptying the thing because he's built all these different things, and I finally go. Wait a minute. I go, Gigi helped you with some of these things, right? And he goes, yeah. I go, all right, which the train? He goes, yeah. I go, give me the train. I go, there it is right there. Those 2 pieces, the 2 white pieces are right there. They should be black. I go, because I'm thinking, why would I go? I hate when they do that, when they ship something and it's not in there. So I got to take your train apart. I took the train apart, got the 2 white pieces. I go,
right.
I sent Cindy a nasty message. I mean, I was joking. I wasn't really mad. Not the 40s. So
my wife's had a bit of a Lego itch lately. So she always gets the holiday one, whatever the holiday one is, and she loves putting that together. She's not a fan of this year's log cabin. She's she built it already, but she's like,
I love that. You mean the winter the lodge? That's awesome.
The lodge.
The half lodge.
Yeah.
They've actually
I don't know. I think it's because it's too brown. It's just like she likes the buildings. She likes the houses, and I think she's more of a fan of Santa's Visit and the gingerbread house. And
there's actually a lot of interesting ornaments. So they've got some gingerbread men to put on the tree this year, and some good ones.
Yeah, but anyway, she had that Lego itch, and so I just so happened to have.
I make fun of you guys, but it is addicting.
It's very addicting.
There's something therapeutic about even just like the physical building part. It's like a puzzle.
I built one the other Saturday with him, and I'm like going, I had no idea. I'm putting it together, and then there's 2 things. I go, I guess they go on the top here, and he goes, yeah, it goes like that. I go, what the hell is it? He goes, it's a toaster. I go, oh. And then he goes, you just built it. I go, I had no idea what it was. I thought it was some kind of robot in the things. I go, because it has these 2 extra pieces that are the same color. I go, oh, I get it. The toast pops out. You put another piece. Oh, I got it now. Okay.
Yeah, the new modular coming out in January.
I'm not very bright.
Is Natural History Museum. If you haven't seen
it comes out December 1st.
No,
the pre-order is
the pre-order
now.
Yeah,
but it says that it comes out December 1st. I swear.
That's rare.
I know.
They always come out January 1st.
I know.
Huh.
It's rare.
But if you check it out on the website, because I kept rereading it, and I swear it says December 1st. If I'm wrong, listeners, send us an email.
December 1st or January 1st?
Well, that's the thing, Jack.
1st.
Starting in 2000,
let me pull it up.
13, something like that. They started putting the modulars in there originally, which is the buildings. in the series. Yeah, they used to come out just randomly, but then they started just streamlining it. Oh, every January 1st is when the new one gets released, and so it's weird for them to say December 1st because they've always come out in January.
I'm going to share this with you here.
Well, maybe they'll want to do December to get the Christmas rush.
That's why they'll do it. But it's just the thing is that we've got a lot of kick-ass buildings coming out right now. We've got the new Avengers Tower, which is like the big one that comes out on Thanksgiving. And then you've got this new modular. They've got a lot of stuff that's going to be a high dollar.
Is that Back to the Future?
It looks like it doesn't. No, it's a natural history museum, so you've got dinosaur and stuff in it. But this is actually one of the rare times where the price is actually cheaper than what it should be, because you can see right there it says 4,014 pieces.
Yeah,
and usually my math is usually a dime per piece, so this really should be a $400 set, but it's $300, which is great.
Yeah, I'm thinking about doing the Ford Mustang one.
The blue one is about to be out of. They're going to take that one away, so you need to get it. You need to get it quick if you're going to get it.
I don't know. I keep looking at it, going, do I want to buy it? Do I want to buy it?
Well, anyway, it says right here, pre-order this item. It will ship from December.
Those cherry
1st.
Blossoms.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Yes, they are. That's been a common one. Starting with the. You have them with the bonsai tree,
right?
And then there's another one that has it as well, but that's been kind of a reoccurring thing recently.
So my wife again had this Lego itch. This does relate somehow to Jack's story, I swear. And I happen to have the Jazz Club. I bought the Jazz Club last January. I used my points, and I got it for a good deal off. And so it's just been sitting there waiting. And so I said, well, I have the Jazz Club. If you want to put that together, I was going to save it for the kids, for Christmas. She's like, I'm building it. So she takes it upstairs. She starts working on it because she likes to get her Lego table. She likes to put on a holiday movie, and she's just sitting there building. So I come by at some point, and she did let the kids build some levels. I actually didn't build anything on it. I just kind of let them, and I'd come around and look at stuff. But I come by at some point and there's these two Legos that are sitting there, and I'm like, these extra 2 pieces. And as Nick will testify to this, as you go through the bags, the only thing that you should have extra of are single pieces, singular pieces. Yeah. If it's a 1x2, if it's a 2x4, you've messed up somewhere. And here there sits.
So if it's just a little,
if it's a little singular one, you're fine. They like to throw in extra ones of just singular pieces. But here left over was 2 1x3 black pieces, and I said, someone messed up somewhere. So I start backtracking, and then I go through the book, and then I find where they go, and then that was my
your contribution.
Yeah, I where I get screwed up is the colors. I can't always tell the color.
Right.
So I hope my wife is not your wife, Will, but I appreciate it.
Because the sister wives. But yeah, I do enjoy it. Again, I don't get into it like you guys, but now he's taking them all apart, and because today we were putting this cat together, and he had this thing where he took. And I go, all right, did you take some? I know you took one of them home. Did you put different pieces on? He goes, yeah. I go, well, now we have to put different pieces for the cat. The cat can't be all orange. It's going to have to be brown and green. And he goes, why? I go, because you took those pieces home.
Is it the tiger? You're doing the tiger?
Tiger, yeah, tiger cat.
Oh, that makes sense.
The tiger is one of the messed up things. It's the only Lego set they actually put an asshole on an animal.
Is that what
they did?
And
there's a little flower on the butt.
There's a little flower on the butt. It's an asshole.
Then it has this little red thing with I go, and it just sits there. I go, he goes, what is this? I go, I have no idea. Is it his food? I go, sure. It's some animal he mangled and chewed up.
Well, there are some extra pieces with that because that's a 3-in-1 set. So the creator sets that are 3-in-1, because you will have some extra pieces left over if you build one out of the 3 things. So with the tiger, which is a fun set, you can build the koi fish, which I also like, and then I think it's a red panda, maybe. I can't remember what the third thing is.
That would make sense.
Yeah. And they usually make one for like the year of because that was for the year of the tiger.
Yeah, right.
And then this year they have the rabbit, which is a 3-in-1 set. So
the tiger kills a rabbit.
The parrot looks to be a
Chinese
fun one.
New Year.
Yeah, for the Chinese New Year. Yeah. The parrot is also a fun one if you're just looking for a $20 set. It comes in 2 different colors. There's a magenta one and then there's a blue one. But I think those 3-in-1 sets are kind of fun because you can take them apart and rebuild new things.
He does his own thing, and he's 40.
That's cool.
And he's better at it than me. And he goes, no, Papa, it's this one. I go, all right, it's fine. I don't know what I'm doing. Anyway,
well, I always love it when you bring up Lego, Jack. So thanks for that.
it was me, John, the retired guy. I brought up Legos because my grandson's into Legos. Well, they're all into Legos, but it's just...
But you get to a certain point where you have to go, I can only buy this theme and that's it. Yes. Because even though you might like stuff, you're just going to go down that rabbit hole. Yeah. And it's kind of like the last theme that I'm like, okay, I will start buying is the flowers. I really enjoy the botanicals.
Mm-hmm.
But the new ones though, I kind of like it, the potted ones, but I don't think I'm going to get them though.
I don't. Yeah, the potted ones. And then they're coming out with a bouquet of roses, which I'm like, well, you've already had roses out there. This is just a bouquet.
Yeah.
So I was a little disappointed with the recent botanical release. It is.
I did have another story real quick. My grandson,
we're here. It's only Chris that had to leave.
My second youngest grandson, I'm trying to teach him to say Papa. He says Dada and some other things. So I'm working on for like a week. So I go, Papa. He goes, Kaka. So he comes up to me now. He goes, Kaka, Kaka. I go, it's Papa.
How do you get those two mixed up?
Can I just say that this is your daughter fucking with you? She's actually like training him. Like she takes it. Okay, remember, call him Kaka.
It could be. Exactly. Didn't Kaka like we all's code word for poop?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. He's just poop. Yeah.
I just imagine that your children are trying to get back.
Oh, it could possibly be that way, but I'm like, no, it's Cindy's trying to get him to say Gigi. I go, he's around me more than you. Mm-hmm. Right. In fact, he'll come in the house and we'll go, come here. And he always comes to me and gives me a big hug. I said, ha 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 ha.
What about Gigi and Pee-Pee?
Gigi and Pee-Pee? Oh, that'd be a good one, wouldn't it? Yeah. Anyway.
I watched that old video you put up the other day of I forget her name. Ava, throwing the balls down the stairs, and I'm like, of course, I realize you just being the funny grandpa of like, no, you can't do it anymore. But like,
I was probably really saying no.
You really were saying no, but she kept doing it, and I was kind of like, come on, Jack, be the dad Jack, not the grandpa Jack. Put the hammer down.
And I didn't even realize till my daughter said something. She only has one shoe on.
Oh, okay, I missed that.
Oh, I go one shoe kids.
Yeah, I go, I don't know. But we had a big ball of Taffy would have loved it. Big ball pit of one of those plastic swimming pools. And they would she just kept throwing it and she'd run back and she'd go back. I go, no, you need to stop. I'm going to have to pick all those up. Stop.
I've been running there and grab some more.
Yeah. Now she's in kindergarten now.
Yeah.
Wow. Time flies.
They do, and they grow up so fast. I mean, it's just like even Chris saying he's got a 4-year-old. I'm like, is he only 4? I remember you telling us.
I still think of him as just having a baby.
A baby, yeah.
Yeah. So, let's take one more commercial break.
That's what I was about to say. We need to take
okay.
One.
Yeah. Because this is a super long episode.
I blame you guys because
it's really kind of 2 parts because we had the Chris in the first hour, and the Jack, and
you missed a lot of deep conversations with Jack Handy. I
ran across one of those on TikTok. My favorite one, which is the burned down Disneyland. That's one of my favorite ones.
Well, the one I always remember was I don't know why I always thought it was funny as a kid. It was like every now and then my son will say, "Dad, why does it rain?" And I say, because God is crying. And then he looks at me and says, well, why is God crying? And I can't help but say, probably because of something you did.
I remember that one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
No, there's some funny ones. So So, real Jack,
wait, are those new glasses, Matt?
No,
they look like they're different colors.
No, they've always been.
All right.
I think I have more of a direct light right now. I have a little mini light over here.
And I froze.
You did.
You're frozen now.
You look like a grumpy old man.
He does.
Well, I am a grumpy old man.
You look like Jay from. I've been watching Modern Family, so.
Yeah.
I can't help but see Jay and Gloria. Like you're doing the Jay podcast.
Hey, works for me.
So, yeah. Oddly though, you're Jack. And
wow, yeah, I see it now. Yeah. With the Gloria and
yeah.
You know,
Jay.
A really good clip of an early season of Modern Family showed up today on somewhere in my feed, and I watched it, and it just makes me mad now because I really like Jack and and some of us have said, like, I mean, Modern Family in its first few seasons is so damn good, and then just the way it ended. I'm not saying it's the worst ended show ever, but
they bowed to the pressure of having to, because people were saying there's no substance to it. It just, I go, yeah, it's making me laugh. That's all it has to do. I used to argue that all the time. I go,
it does.
Who cares? But then they had to make it this meaning something. I'm like,
I mean, I've definitely watched that show. It's kind of like a family show that we sit down and we'll kind of like, we might be on our phones or our devices playing, but as a family, we collectively have kind of on in the background because, and there are funny, I think that the mid seasons of that show still have some really strong stuff. I love the scene where they take Lily to this restaurant and she's determined to say that she's gay.
Oh yeah.
And Gloria's just like, no, you're Vietnamese, and she's like, I hate Vietnam.
Right. That's a good one because that's even when Cam and Jesse, I can't think of his name right now.
Cam and Mitchell.
Cam and Mitchell, yeah, like when even them, they're saying stuff, and they're like,
they keep saying stuff.
They keep digging themselves in a hole. Like, that was such a good,
that whole back and forth and the way that's written. So I think there are moments. The problem is that they, the kids obviously grow up, and them doing backflips to like, keep stories going, or the fact that there is really no show Bible. It's like the daughters kind of go in and out of different phases, and you're just kind of like, okay.
Well, Manny, who was funny in the beginning, was terrible. It's like they had no.
Yeah, they did the classic like bring another kid on with Joe, but I do like some of
Joe is funny.
Joe is funny. There's this moment where Joe says he's trying to kidnap Santa Claus, and he says like, imagine if it could be Christmas all year long. He's got this whole subplot. Like he's got his own mission, and he's trying to convince the others.
Yeah, Luke wasn't as funny when he got older.
No,
Annie wasn't as funny, and it's just like I think Haley was the only one that was kind of funny because she had that. What was the boyfriend's name?
Dylan.
Dylan. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But other than that, it's just like they should have started sending the kids away to college.
Right, and that's where I remember that as soon as Haley, when he got into those seasons where she was supposed to be going to college and didn't go to college, and it's like
that's where I was saying like they're doing kind of backflips just to make this stuff make sense.
It work. And it did. It's like, oh, you're making Haley kind of a fuck up, and you shouldn't do that to her. Like just let her be, let her go do her thing. And,
So
that's where to me where it started to lose me a little bit.
Yeah, I think. I just think there are some nuggets in there, like as it does progress, but
because I like you, I was rewatching it for a while, and the pilot episode is one of those pilots. It's spot on. It's money.
Yeah, it hits the ground running.
It hits the ground running. It's like the first episode of Friends. I remember watching that, going, "Oh my god, this show is hilarious." And wife came home from a PTA, and she goes, I don't know, it's some show.
There's a lot of first seasons, especially for a comedy. It's like you almost have to be really, really sharp and funny.
Yeah.
To, aside from like The Office and Parks and Rec, where like the first 6 episodes, or the first season are sluggish, Modern Family, Community, that first season is just so sharp.
Good. Yeah, you have to grab them nowadays. Like it's different because
first season of Superstore is that way. It's really strong, and then as it progresses, it actually kind of loses momentum.
Because you don't get the time. You don't get the. It's like because I was watching something the other day. Little Rada Swit and Jamie Farr were talking about MASH, and they said the first season they almost got canceled because they were 68 out of 72 shows.
Wow.
And then the the wife of the president of CBS liked the show.
Mm-hmm.
So what they did is they moved it to Saturday night, and this was the lineup. It was who was the lead in? It was God damn it. MASH was second. All in the Family, MASH, Mary Tyler Moore Show, Bob Newhart Show, and Carol Burnett.
Right.
And then they go, that's the best lineup of television history. I go,
it really is.
I go, they're right. I mean, I never heard of those shows, but if you've heard of those shows, there's not a dog in the lot. It's like, my God.
I mean,
considered one of the
NBC had their run of Thursday night TV, but even with that, you don't have it ending with Carol Burnett. You know what I mean? Like,
no, I mean, it's like, okay, Carol Burnett is like, it's like, you had
it's
you
like
had
before
ER
SNL.
and some other shows,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like the Carol Burnett show. I mean, that they were saying people didn't go to the movies, people stayed home on Saturday night to watch TV, and now Saturday night is either sports,
right,
or you're out having a good time.
Well, and the streaming just broke everything.
And it all changed, like Matt was saying. Is like, to me, in the 90s, Thursday night was the night you watched TV.
Oh yeah,
and then when the HBO era kind of started, it was all Sunday. You know,
the 2000s, it was Sunday. Or Lost.
Because eventually MASH moved to Monday nights, and I can't remember what was before it, but you think they said basically. They said people got us in the reruns, and people are like, what's a rerun? They got us in the reruns, and then putting something that with that lineup, that lead in with All in the Family, then MASH
and Mary Tyler Moore.
Tyler Moore. You're sandwiched in between those two, and Newhart.
Those are all like solid.
Those are Hall of Fame shows, each and every one of them. So
I started to say, kind of like the times that have changed, kind of like how season ones back then didn't have to be that great. Because I remember the two shows in particular, Friends. I didn't know what Friends was until its second season, and the only reason why I knew about it is my sister had gone to college, and in its first season, and she called, was like, "Hey, there's this new show called Friends, and everyone's like watching it. You guys should watch it." And at that time, the show that I think my family watched was Wings. We loved Wings.
Oh, Wings, yeah.
Oh,
And so we got into Friends because my sister recommended it. And it's the same thing with Lost. Like, I did not watch Lost until season 2. The first episode I watched was Hurley's Handouts, I think. I know I've said this before. At least I'm not sure. No, it's not Hurley's Handouts, because that's in season 2, I think. But the first episode, no, it was Hurley's first episode was the very first episode I ever watched in season 1. But I had already hit the lotto. I'd already missed though a lot of season 1, so I just waited. I was like, I'm going to wait till the DVDs of season 1 comes out, and then I'll watch that, and then start season 2, and that's what I did. So, that's
what Jay and I did. We watched the DVDs a couple weeks before season 2 started.
Yeah,
it's interesting, like how Lost, predates the bingeable show in a way, and yet so many of us binged that first season, and then it's like it just it really kept the ball rolling. I remember watching the premiere, but with my schedule or with whatever it was like, oh, I can't keep up with this show, and then I watched the season 1 after the fact. It was kind of like I'd watch
DVRing helped me watch a lot of shows because you're busy, you're working, stuff like that. So I would DVR show, and then I'd watch them at night. After everybody's going to bed, I go, all right, now I'm going to sit down and watch some shows. Plus, you could fast forward through the commercials. But
that string keeps bothering you. I can tell.
It's irritating.
You're like Jack can't even podcast past this point. It's just it's like got an injury. So.
Well, to the people who watch this who didn't know what it might be, he's over going through withdrawals.
It's like I'm mad.
Jack, you're scratching.
Anyway, we probably rambled on too much.
Oh, that's what we do. So if you like this show, and why wouldn't you?
If you would watch us live, you could see my tag.
You would. So you can follow us on YouTube or subscribe. And if you're listening to this, you probably already do. So There's some patrons that we'd like to thank. Jack, what are their names? Don't you have those written down somewhere?
Eckhart Richter Klaffler, Maggie the Magnificent, Joanne with the Plan, and Ed the Creepy Caca Poopy Letter Carrier. Thanks for what you do, and thanks for everyone that does and whatever you do. And thanks for joining us in the chat. All that fun stuff. And we'll be back next week with another exciting episode of the Ramblecast.
Wow,
that was perfect.
I know that's the most professional you've ever said.
Well, I had to do the one for Survivor because Colleen always forgets. She's always closing out the show, and I go, and we want to thank.
That was really good. And perhaps next week we'll return to the verses. This week with how we were doing it.
What was it? Oh, the colors.
The color, our favorite color.
Who won that one?
I think
I want to say it was Chris, but I'll check. Again.
I think it was blue.
It's blue. It's blue. I know that.
It's blue.
So he goes, "Why'd you guys do that?" I go, "Be smart asses."
Who said that?
Cindy asked me, "Go, why'd you do all blue?"
Do you not know who we are?
I said, "Well, we did it on purpose. We put favorite. What is your favorite color?" And we all picked a blue color.
That was good.
It got buried. Here you go. Yeah, royal blue one.
Oh, that's
royal blue.
Yeah.
Jack again with the demographic.
Oh, I'll pick.
All right, Jack. You have all week to think about what your next verse.
I don't want to be like Chris.
We had a lot of suggestions in the chat. Perhaps Jack will choose one of them. Thanks for joining us. See you next week.
See ya.
Bye, so.